Welcome to UN Women Private Sector Forum, Care Service Innovation Investment for Our Sustainable Future. My name is Ajang Lee. I'm the External Relations Specialist and the Private Sector Lead here at the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea. We have some international guests, so we are providing simultaneous interpretation, Korean and English. So please kindly use your interpretation device. Now, can we please clap our two interpreters who will be servicing us for the next few hours? Thank you very much. And since majority of our guests are Korean, I'm going to speak Korean from now on. So I'd like to ask our international guests to use the translation device, please.
Good afternoon. My name is Hajung Lee from the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea's External Relations team. I would like to sincerely thank all of you for taking the time to join us today. I also recognize several familiar faces who attend our events regularly. Thank you, as always, for your continued support. Before we begin today's forum, I want to express our deep gratitude to the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family for their invaluable sponsorship, which made this forum possible. I would also like to extend my heartfelt appreciation to all of our distinguished speakers joining us from overseas, as well as to the many experts here in Korea. Now we will officially begin. Please join me in welcoming Ms. Yoon Jung Hwang, Director of the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea, with a warm round of applause.
Good afternoon, distinguished participants. It is my great honor to welcome you to the UN Women Private Sector Forum on Care Service Innovation and Investment for Our Sustainable Future. I would like to first thank the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family for their generous support to our center and this forum. Across the region, aging populations are increasing rapidly, driving greater demand for care services. Yet, the care sector, especially elder care, remains underdeveloped and has long depended on paid work by women. Professionalizing and strengthening this sector is challenging, but it is essential for our shared future, for advancing gender equality and for improving the socio-economic opportunities for women caregivers. At UN Women, we believe that the care economy holds untapped potential, not only as a pathway to gender equality, but also as a growing and sustainable industry sector. While governments as primary duty bearers have the leading responsibility for providing care services, innovation and strategic investment from the private sector are also vital. By combining social purpose with business innovation, we can open up new opportunities for investment, collaboration, and meaningful impact. That is the spirit of today's forum and of our broader global work. Our center, established in 2022, plays a key role in advancing this vision. We seek to build partnerships, facilitate knowledge sharing, and contribute evidence and insights that support UN Women's global and regional work on care. This forum marks the finale of the intensive Asia Regional Workshop we have been hosting over the past 3 days with distinguished entrepreneurs and impact investors in this field of care from Korea, China, Indonesia, Japan, Malaysia, Thailand, and Vietnam. These private sector leaders from 7 countries have shared their context, challenges, opportunities, and ideas for collaboration to build a more thriving ecosystem for care. Our discussions in the past 3 days clearly showed that developing and investing in innovative services that meet the complex needs of caregivers, as well as those who need care, is not just a business. It is about supporting families, strengthening communities, and saving lives. Building on our workshop, it is my hope that today's forum will ignite new ideas and inspire cross-sector collaboration to tackle the pressing challenges in care. all of you in this room, we need expertise and vision to shaping a stronger, more inclusive and sustainable care ecosystem for the region and beyond. Before I close, I'd like to extend my sincere appreciation to our three distinguished speakers delivering congratulatory remarks. Mr. Yeonchul Yu, Executive Director, UN Global Compact Network Korea. Ms. Haekyung Lee, Executive Director, ASEM Global Aging Center, and Ms. Seungji Choi, Assistant Minister, Ministry of Gender Equality and Family, whose remarks will be delivered by Ms. Jang-hae Lee, Director for International Cooperation. I also want to sincerely thank our keynote presenters, Professor Tae-young Song of Incheon University and Ms. Katja Freiberg, UN Women Regional Program Manager and Technical Advisor, as well as our distinguished panelists joining us from Korea and across Asia in Session 1 and Session 2. Last but not least, I want to thank Jung-tae Kim and his wonderful team at MISC, who has provided excellent technical assistance for our regional workshop ahead of this forum. Ladies and gentlemen, let us together develop innovative and human-centered services, policies, financing modalities, collaboration modalities on care to truly meet the needs of caregivers as well as care recipients. This is something we must do for our parents, children, ourselves, as well as our societies as a whole. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Director Huang, for your welcoming remarks. Now it's my great pleasure and honor to introduce you to Mr. Yeonchul Yu, Executive Director of UN Global Compact Network Korea.
Good afternoon, everybody. So, as introduced, I'm Yeonchul Yu, now serving as the Executive Director of UN Global Compact Network Korea. And actually, I prepared my congratulatory remarks in Korean. So if you don't mind, I'll proceed it in Korean. 안녕하십니까?
Good afternoon. I'm Yeonchul Yu, Executive Director of the UN Global Compact Network Korea. I would like to sincerely congratulate the UN Women Knowledge and Partnership Center in the Republic of Korea on hosting today's forum, Innovation and Investment in Care Services for a Sustainable Future for All. I would also like to extend my deep gratitude and congratulations to Director Yoon Jung-hwang and all colleagues at UN Women who organized this meaningful event. Since the joint launch of the Women's Empowerment Principles, WEPs, by UN Women and the UN Global Compact, our two organizations have maintained a close partnership to advance gender equality across workplaces, markets, and communities. Together, we have promoted gender equality values throughout the corporate and financial sectors through global initiatives such as Ring the Bell for Gender Equality. The theme that the Center of Excellence has addressed over the past 3 days, senior care, is both timely and critical for Korean society. As of the end of 2014, Korea has already become a super-age society, with people aged 65 and over accounting for nearly 20% of the total population. The OECD has also noted that Korea is aging at the fastest rate among all member countries, and this trend is expected to continue for decades. This means that our society is rapidly experiencing rising demand for care services, along with significant social and economic ripple effects. Furthermore, the burden of care continues to fall disproportionately on women. According to data from the International Labor Organization, women around the world perform 3.2 times more unpaid care work than men on average, placing them in a structurally vulnerable position that leads to career interruptions and economic insecurity. When the burden of senior care continues to fall disproportionately on women, it ultimately creates severe inequalities across gender equality, human capital development, and the broader labor market. Today's forum is therefore highly meaningful as we discuss new care models that use innovative digital technologies to reduce care burdens and help women continue their careers and economic activities. It is very timely that stakeholders from the private sector, government, and civil society have come together today to reevaluate the value and importance of care work, and to explore ways to transition toward more advanced care technologies and institutional support. I hope today's discussions lead to tangible action, and that all of you will carry this momentum back to your respective fields to develop concrete collaboration and implementation plans. Once again, I express my sincere gratitude to everyone here today, and I ask for your continued interest and support for the future of care innovation. Thank you. Thank you, Executive Director Yu, for your insightful remarks. As you mentioned, UN Women and the UN Global Compact have collaborated in many ways, and we are truly grateful for your support in making today's meaningful event possible. Next, I would like to invite Dr. Hyekyung Lee, Director of the ASEM Global Aging Center, to deliver her remarks. Hello, I am Hyekyung Lee, Director of the ASEM Global Aging Center. I would like to extend my sincere congratulations to Director Yoon Jong-hwang and the UN Women team for preparing this intensive 3-day workshop and forum on such an important topic. Our center is on the 13th floor of this building, and we have always supported the wonderful work carried out on the 12th floor by UN Women. I am very pleased to join you today with congratulatory remarks. Care is the central issue of the 21st century for all of humanity. The 21st century is often described as a time of triple transformation: demographic change, climate transition, and digital transformation, all of which interact dynamically and produce multi-layered and complex challenges. I believe that at the heart of all strategies and responses to these challenges must lie the philosophy and ethics of care. This is why we must pay attention to the discourse and practice of the care economy and the care state. The era in which care was understood simply as warm, personal, emotional, and unpaid acts of love is behind us. Today, care is rightly recognized as social and economic labor, work that is waged. Since the 1980s, leading feminist scholars have emphasized that care is essential for human survival and development, and that care work is a vital component of social reproduction. They have also highlighted how care responsibilities have been disproportionately placed on women. In addition, care workers, mostly women, have brought attention to issues such as labor rights, low wages, gendered division of labor, and structural inequalities. As a result, the institutionalization and recognition of care work as a matter of rights has become a central agenda in feminist movements, as well as in welfare state and labor policy discussions. I believe that this UN Women Workshop and Forum is especially fresh and important in how it approaches care work, not merely as a social policy agenda, but as an agenda for innovation within the market economy. It interprets care as a new business opportunity, identifies the emerging care industry ecosystem, and highlights successful cases of companies that are leading the care service market. This effort to showcase, share, and facilitate networking among such actors is highly meaningful. The sustainable growth and expansion of a private sector-led care industry, including mission-driven companies, venture capital, and socially responsible B Corps, is not only valuable and timely, but represents a new vision for the future of a care-centered society. The innovation brought by these tech-enabled care enterprises and the genuine expansion of the care economy they promote will be essential strategies in safeguarding gender equality and sustainability amid the complex challenges posed by the 21st century's triple transformation. I am confident that today's gathering will serve as an important foundation for transitioning from a competitive, survival-driven market economy toward a gender-equal, reciprocal, and solidarity-based care economy. With that, I offer my warmest applause to UN Women. UN Women fighting! Congratulations! Thank you, Director Lee, for your inspiring remarks. Next, we will hear congratulatory remarks from Ms. Sungji Choi, Deputy Minister of Youth and Family Policy at the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. As she was unable to join us today due to scheduling conflicts, Ms. Jong-A Lee from the Ministry's International Cooperation Division will deliver the remarks on her behalf. Please welcome her with a round of applause. Hello, I am the Director of International Cooperation at the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. Ms. Sungji Choi, Deputy Minister who oversees care policy at the Ministry, was scheduled to join us today to deliver congratulatory remarks. But due to an urgent matter, I will be reading her message on her behalf. Hello, I am Shin Song-ji, Director General of Youth and Family Policy at the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. I sincerely congratulate UN Women on hosting this private sector forum on a timely and important theme, care services for a sustainable future for all, innovation and investment. I would also like to express my deep appreciation to Director Yoon Jong-hwang and all members of the UN Women's Center of Excellence for bringing together leading experts and industry representatives from across Asia to explore solutions to one of the most urgent issues facing our society: population aging and the future of care. Although care is essential for a sustainable society, its burden has long been placed primarily on families and on women. With Korea now experiencing rapid demographic changes, such as low fertility and population aging, care can no longer be treated as an individual responsibility. It is a collective challenge that our entire society must address together. I believe today's forum will serve as an important opportunity to engage deeply with experts across sectors and explore strategic directions and successful approaches for advancing care for a sustainable future. The government of the Republic of Korea is committed to strengthening policy support in response to demographic and societal shifts. In particular, the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family has expanded government support for childcare services to ease the caregiving burden that has fallen disproportionately on women. We are also broadening the family-friendly certification system to help create workplace environments where work-life balance is possible. Additionally, we are establishing community-based care spaces such as shared parenting centers to promote a culture in which local communities collectively share care responsibilities. The Ministry will continue to support diverse forms of families, close gaps in care provision, and build a sustainable care system that allows innovative care enterprises to grow and thrive. Once again, I congratulate the Center of Excellence on hosting this forum, and I wish everyone here good health and happiness. Thank you. Thank you very much. We will now move on to the keynote presentation. First, I would like to invite Professor Da-Young Song from the Department of Social Welfare at Incheon National University. Professor Song has worked extensively on family policy, gender equality policy, care, and women's poverty alleviation. Most recently, she has been conducting joint research with Japanese scholars on the growing issue of dual caregiving arising from demographic changes. She also actively participates as an advisor to civil society organizations and in government policy development. Professor Song, please join us. Hello, I am Professor Da-Young Song from the Department of Social Welfare at Incheon National University. It's a pleasure to be here. I am currently conducting an international research project funded by the Toyota Foundation with a Japanese research team on the issue of dual caregiving. And I'm very glad to have the opportunity to briefly touch on this topic today. Personally, I have long been interested in gender equality in care. So I would like to begin by briefly sharing how my work on this issue started. As I was given only 15 minutes for my presentation, I will move through the content quickly. I would also like to focus a bit more on my policy proposals for the government and offer some initial ideas on how this field might further develop within the private sector. I hope today's presentation will serve as a small starting point for that discussion. The discussion around dual caregiving began with the fact that when we talked about care, it was usually framed as child care, elder care, or care for persons with disabilities. Because we defined care by the care recipient, the people actually providing the care became invisible. This is what is often referred to as the invisible nature of care work. In reality, caregiving rarely involves caring for just one person at a time, and it is never confined to one single period of life. Yet because we kept naming only the recipients, older adults, persons with disabilities, children, the caregivers themselves faded from view. As a result, many aspects of women's contributions to the reproduction and sustainability of society also became obscured. One of the main reasons dual caregiving has increased in recent years is demographic change. We have already discussed Korea's rapid superaging. Another key factor is that women are not only participating in the labor market in greater numbers, but are also marrying much later. This will significantly accelerate the prevalence of dual caregiving in the future. So when we talk about care policy, attention tends to focus only on how to care for the recipients. But I believe we must add an essential second layer. How do we care for the caregivers? Scholar Katie raised this as a critical issue, and I would like to highlight it today. Dual caregiving occurs not only within a single generation, but also across generations. The most common form involves simultaneously caring for older parents and for minor children. For example, adults in their 30s and 40s often care for their young children while also caring for their aging parents. As time goes on, this extends into their 50s, 60s, and even 70s, where older adults must care for their grandchildren while also caring for parents who have reached very advanced, super-aged stages. This group, shaped by demographic shifts, is becoming one of the largest emerging caregiving groups. If you look at the chart, you can see that a person in their 30s eventually becomes someone in their 60s who must take care of both grandchildren and elderly parents. Yet our policies tend to focus only on the recipients, either children or older adults. We need to ask how to bring proper social attention to this dual caregiving group. In our project, the first conducted in 2016 to 2017, and the current one supported by the Toyota Foundation, we began with the assumption that dual caregiving cannot be limited only to parent-child care dynamics. Across Asian societies, we expected to find diverse caregiving patterns, and indeed, many different patterns emerged. Among marriage migrant women, we found cases where the husband was ill, requiring them to care not only for him, but also for their parents-in-law and their children. In both Korea and Japan, there has been growing attention on young carers. We often assume young carers only look after their parents, but many of them are actually providing dual care, caring for parents while also caring for younger siblings close to their age. Yet society tends to focus only on the care for parents, overlooking the other side of their caregiving responsibilities. The concept of dual caregiving allows us to see the parts of care work that have been hidden. There are many more cases, but I will move on due to time constraints. As many of you know, people in Korea tend to marry very late. The average age is now 33. If someone marries at 33, their first child enters elementary school at around age 8, meaning the parent is already about 40. At the same time, their own parents are aging and becoming frail. So the band of caring for both children and parents is becoming thicker and more prolonged. This trend is expected to intensify. If you look at the chart, you can see what I mentioned earlier. Those in their 30s and 40s eventually move into their 50s and 60s. the period of caring for grandchildren is drawn as quite short, but the period of caring for parents is extremely long, especially given that Korean women's average life expectancy is now 87. This results in a very extended period of elder care. We also see a growing pattern where people in their 60s and 70s must care not only for very elderly parents, but also for adult children who are still not economically independent. So care is no longer something that happens at a single moment for a single person. It has become a multi-layered, complex set of responsibilities. Dual caregiving is no longer an exceptional case. It is becoming a widespread reality across Asia. As part of our project, we conducted a situational survey. When we asked respondents who they cared for, the most common answer was still children under 18. But we also saw a clearly shifting pattern in Asian societies. In the past, care for parents-in-law was overwhelmingly provided by daughters-in-law, but now, care for parents is increasingly provided by daughters. The third most common category was care for parents-in-law. So overall, caring for children and caring for parents form the main structure of dual caregiving. When we looked at the proportion of people engaged in dual caregiving, our survey showed about 25%, roughly 1 in 4. A similar study by the Korea Institute for Health and Social Affairs reported an even higher figure of around 30%, indicating that dual caregiving is not a marginal or rare situation. And one of the most striking findings was that although the most common situation involved caring for 2 people, we also found cases where respondents were caring for 5 people simultaneously. So where should we focus our attention? This is an area that I believe the private sector can also take interest in. Although we live in what we call an information society, many people still struggle most with balancing work and care responsibilities. Korea has the Act on Gender Equality in Employment and Work-Family Balance, which strongly encourages the use of parental leave. But family care leave, though legally established, is rarely used in practice. As I mentioned earlier, care responsibilities do not end in one's 30s or 40s. They extend into one's 50s and 60s, even for people my age. Yet our system does not sufficiently support leave or rest related to these caregiving demands. We need to think about how to address this gap. Another major issue is a lack of information. People caring for children must search for childcare information, and those caring for older adults must search separately for elder care information. For individuals experiencing dual caregiving, this becomes a double burden. So one of the big questions is, how do we integrate these services and information streams? In Japan, which we visited as part of our research, the comprehensive care centers provide a model. They have built systems where people can find information on dual caregiving in one place. Korea also needs to move in this direction. In addition, the economic burden associated with dual caregiving is significant. The emotional and physical burden is also enormous, yet many people have no one to share it with. I believe this is something we must pay more attention to, even if the number of people affected may seem relatively small for now. When we asked people engaged in dual caregiving, the most common answer was, "I don't have time." To meet friends, to talk to someone, to do anything, you need time, and they simply don't have it. Japan, which began addressing this issue earlier than Korea, created online communities and forums for dual caregivers. I found it very striking that people in Sapporo and Okinawa could meet online, share their situations, and find solutions together. Seeing this made me think that advanced technologies in today's society could also help us find new ways to support dual caregivers. As you can imagine, caring for one older adult is already difficult. Caring for 2 sides of the family at once becomes extremely challenging. When we asked dual caregivers what they wish they could do more of, The responses were very predictable. People in their 20s and 30s said they wanted to work more. Respondents in their 20s said they wished they could continue their studies. As age increased, people expressed a desire for social activities, rest, and leisure time. In other words, for those in their 50s and 60s, people who have worked long hours in paid employment and, after retirement, end up caring for both grandchildren and very elderly parents, it becomes nearly impossible to find any time for themselves. This led us to consider how we might better address rest and leisure for individuals engaged in dual caregiving. When asked, "What would help?" which is essentially a question directed at government, the most common response was, "We need more care services." Korea's childcare service infrastructure is now at a fairly advanced level, but services for older adults, such as adult daycare centers, senior activity centers, and higher quality community hubs beyond traditional senior centers, remain insufficient. Many respondents stressed the need for more diverse and accessible elder care facilities. There were also persistent concerns about information access and service quality, particularly regarding care workers. Higher income respondents noted that they were willing to pay more for better quality services because it would give them the flexibility to continue working. When asked whether they expected to become dual caregivers in the future, about 40% of the 816 survey participants said yes. This indicates that the number of people who will have to care for 2 or more family members will likely grow substantially. We also conducted qualitative interviews, though I cannot go through all of them today. One of the most striking comments, and it came up often, was this: "I used to be a working person, but I quit my job because of dual caregiving. Once I did, all care responsibilities came to me. I became the sole caregiver and eventually became isolated. What I want more than anything is to return to work, to have a situation where I can work and care at the same time." This shows that the issue is not only about gender equality, but also fundamentally about the coexistence of labor rights and care rights. Both must be upheld. Economic burdens were also mentioned frequently. Some respondents said they wanted to have children but could not due to the weight of caregiving responsibilities. So, as I said earlier, dual caregiving brings increasingly diverse challenges. Solving these issues will not be simple, but despite the difficulty, they are problems that we must address. So when we talk about work-family balance, this is something we absolutely must move toward. And beyond that, even though much of today's discussion focused on married individuals, we also included unmarried women in our interviews. As I mentioned earlier, in the past, daughters-in-law cared for parents-in-law. Today, daughters provide most of that care. Many unmarried women told us, "I didn't get married because I didn't want caregiving responsibilities, but in the end, I still have to care for my parents." This is a very common situation. So when we talk about work-family balance, we need to move away from approaches that assume a married couple as the default. Regardless of one's life path, we need a society where people can work and care at the same time. A society that only works is a problem, and a society that only cares is also a problem. We need a society where work and care are in balance. To move toward that, family care leave within flexible work systems needs to be strengthened. In Korea, parental leave is now widely discussed, but family care leave still is not. It needs to expand much further. I am currently working with members of the National Assembly to revise legislation on work-family balance. We need laws that create greater balance, and there are many issues related to dual caregiving within existing laws. For example, under the Infant and Child Care Act, dual-income families or single-parent families receive priority access to public child care centers, but dual caregivers do not. Why? Because the system looks only at whether women are employed. This means that if a woman quits her job due to overwhelming dual caregiving responsibilities, even though her caregiving burden is just as heavy as someone who is employed, she is classified as not working and receives no caregiving priority. We found many similar issues in other laws as well. This is why we need more gender-responsive analysis across legislation. As I mentioned earlier, we also need many more care centers. And for those engaged in dual caregiving, it is incredibly difficult to navigate multiple systems and gather information from different places. So I believe that when people visit their local community office, it would be helpful to have a system that checks for dual caregiving situations and provides integrated guidance. Another important point is that many people do not realize they are dual caregivers. One of the most striking things we found was that many respondents said, "I didn't know I was a dual caregiver until you told me." It reminded me of poet Kim Chun-soo's line, "It was only when you gave it a name that I knew it was a flower." We encountered many similar moments during the study. Therefore, it would be helpful to create a system where not only dual caregivers themselves, but also staff at relevant institutions can ask and check whether someone is engaged in dual caregiving. This would allow people to receive the support and protections they need. I also believe we should develop self-help groups for dual caregivers, whether online, offline, or in hybrid formats. For those of you from the private sector joining us today, this may be the first time you are hearing about dual caregiving, or perhaps you have only seen it mentioned briefly in the news. It would be wonderful if companies could begin paying more attention to employees who are dual caregivers. From a development perspective, we need information platforms and structured programs for rest, leisure, psychological and emotional counseling, depression prevention, and reducing isolation. When we asked dual caregivers what they needed most, the answer we heard repeatedly was time. So we must find ways for them to engage in support or activity programs, either from home or nearby, without requiring additional physical or time burdens. Ultimately, we need to explore methods that allow dual caregivers to work and care simultaneously, while still having access to rest and leisure. I hope we can continue to build interest and cooperation in finding these solutions. This concludes my presentation. Thank you very much.
네, 교수님 너무 insightful한 그런 발표를 해주셔서 정말 감사합니다. For our international participants, this presentation was so rich. You may want to listen to this in English. So we are actually recording this and we'll be sharing with you the English version of this presentation so that you can share with others as well. So please wait for that from us. Now, I'm going to introduce you to Katja Freibart, who is the UN Women Regional Program Manager and Technical Advisor. She's leading our women's economic empowerment portfolio at the regional level, and she's also the regional manager for our CARE program as well. I think the previous presentation by Professor Song really demonstrated how women's economic empowerment and CARE is very much interlinked. So this is why we have this under her portfolio. So Katja would like to invite you to kindly present UN Women's perspective.
Thank you so much, and thank you, Professor. This was really inspiring, your presentation. And some of this might come a little bit repetitive, and some of the things are similar, which is great, which we see we are aligned. So I'm going to be talking about transform care, and I have 10 minutes time. And I want to take you a little bit back into where our journey on care actually started as. There we go. As UN Women. And we have heard about pivotal moments before, but one of the pivotal moments in UN Women's journey has been working around care since our existence, since 15 years and even before, because a lot of the care work has been always in the hands of women and left women behind in other opportunities in life. But the pivotal moment for the care agenda was when COVID hit all of us. And care all of a sudden was visible for everyone, and it was painful for many, and care was in the head of everyone. So this was a moment where we as UN Women stepped in and really started to rally more momentum around to get to a tipping point to make sure that the agenda is not going to be put aside again. And we have done this in two ways with a lot of partners and many of you here in the room. On the upper side, and I'm not going through this, we have created a political, public, global movement around care, anchored in initiatives like the Global Alliance for Care, bringing the world together on changing the dynamics in care. But at the same time, and my background, just sharing a little bit as well, has been for a long time also in the private sector. We have been looking into on how can we work together with innovators, with businesses like yours here in the room, with excellent entrepreneurs, and some of them were here over the past 3 days who started that journey with us 5-6 years ago. So we really looked kind of in innovation into care and what's the role of the private sector within an ecosystem approach. Now, fast forward, I think what's important and what we have seen is that care is still not defined in a way that everyone thinks the same thing when we speak about care. I think if we ask someone on the street here, probably many people would, in the first sense, think about health care. But care is so much more, as we've heard from the presentations before. And this is why we have rallied also important UN stakeholders and the ecosystem together to align on a way on how do we define care. And for us, care is in the center of thriving, sustainable, and just economies. And we also make sure that in the definition is very clear that care is a public good. And it's essential work that contributes to all of our well-being, and this is where the care workers dimension particularly comes in. And we also see care as really a fundamental enabler of functioning societies. So this paper has put out together the key principles of policymakers to really drive care systems in a responsible way. And we don't have time now to go really in all of these principles, but I just wanted to highlight two sets, and you can have this publication after and look into this. What is very important is that we think about care as a human rights-based approach. It is the accountability of the state to make sure that everyone has affordable access to quality care, and the care providers having decent work when providing care. So that also embeds the universality of care. I'm speaking about transformation nature of care system in a second, but a very important principle, certainly very dear to UN Women's heart, is our leave no one behind principle. So we will be talking a lot about solutions that can be driven also from businesses, from private sector, but in the end, what we need to make sure we have an ecosystem, a transformative system for care where everyone is benefiting from not only a certain group of our society. Now, a very interesting concept for the ones that know care very well are probably very familiar with the 5 Rs and now 6 Rs. But just to give you, the ones that maybe not so familiar, an idea, we're really looking on recognizing care as a value for everyone, that care work is recognized by everyone. We're looking into reducing. So how can we really reduce the time spent on care? Redistribute between different actors, but also within the household, that it's not only the daughters that are taking care of the families, but also the sons, the fathers, and others. We are looking that care workers in the principle of representation have a voice when we are designing care systems, and that they are rewarded in a right and in a decent way. And last but not least, in a lot of the conversations we had in the last 3 days was around financing, resourcing for care. And this is an essential one because there's a big financing gap. So I think I'm leaving this out, but just maybe for everyone to reflect, when we think about what is care, every one of us receives at certain point in life care and also probably provides care. But I just want to bring one nuance to this. Care is not only care for people, but care also entails housekeeping, washing laundry, cooking. So there's a lot of that time spent on care as well. And we also need to distinguish between paid care and unpaid care. And what we've heard before, a majority of care is unpaid, is in the hands of women and impeding them from actually participating in other parts of life. Now, why do we care about care? As I said already, care is the backbone of our society. If all that unpaid care would not be done, would you be able to sit here today if no one would care for your children, for your parents? We need all care, and without that, our economy cannot flourish. Second, as I explained and we've heard before, care is highly unequal and unequal distributed between men and women, and holding women back on opportunities they could have in other parts. If you want it or not, if you don't believe in the first two arguments, demographic change is happening. And so we will need to address care, otherwise our societies and economies will have a problem. And four, it really contributes to sustainable development across the different SDGs. And that many of you are businesses in here, and I'm not unpacking the whole business case, but there's a very clear business case on why investing in care makes sense for governments, but also makes sense for businesses. It really increases at a higher level employment creation opportunities. If we invest in care, our GDP returns will be much bigger, and for employers, your employment base, which is short and becoming shorter, can only be sustainable if there's investments in care. And that's why UN Women has launched very recently the Transform Care Investment Initiative, a network to bring multiple partners from private sector, public sector, all together with one objective: to catalyze more investments into care, and do that in the same way to execute and use these investments to really strengthen data and policy for care. Secondly, really looking into care delivery models, and that was the topic of our last 2.5 days on how can we strengthen care delivery models. And you were, Professor, mentioning we have different needs and we need diverse models, and that's why the private sector is so important for that. We have been looking over the past 2 days at different aging societies, from early aging countries, rapidly aging countries, to super aging countries. What we have been seeing is care needs expand and diverse in different ways. It's not only centers we need. Care needs are more on demand, for example. But what we also see, everywhere there is a shortage in care workers or care workforce. So what can we do actually about this? And this leads me to the key takeaways from the last days, because I'm sure you would have all benefited and enjoyed being with us together in the room. So let me just unpack them a little bit. So care demands are rapidly increasing across the region. There is a huge care supply and demand gap. So we need to be rethinking. And no single actor can do this. No government policy alone will solve this. We need rethinking and innovation on how to change or respond to this rapidly changing demands in a very responsible way. We have heard from many of the speakers the last days. When we think about care, again, we are looking at probably a child care center in your mind, or maybe an elderly care center. But if we want to look at care as an economy, we need to look much broader. We need to look at care as a system, as value chains, as really different sectors involved into this. So for example, the construction sector, highly important because we need infrastructures. How do we design our cities, for example? How do we create these spaces that we've just heard about that maybe exist in Japan already? The tech sector equally. But what we need most is we need ecosystem approaches. We need ecosystems from different ways. We need a very diverse investment ecosystem that helps us to catalyze investments from public investments, make sure that these investments work and attract more capital into the care sector to really meet these care needs. And we need innovators in the system. So private sector has a key role to play in there as well. And one of the things and recommendations that came out and wishes from some of the entrepreneurs and the investors in the room, how can we create innovation platforms and sandboxes where we can experiment together, and not only in Korea, but bringing in the learnings from the different countries, because everyone goes through this demographic curve, right? So we can learn much more from each other. And also one thing we learned, maybe the work is not necessarily only at national level, but also bottom up, but working maybe in levels like municipalities or communities. So really thinking much more on how can we choose different entry points for delivery. And last but not least, and I think that's the closest to my heart, and that's we're going to close with, if we don't start valuing care as something really essential for all of us, we will not solve it. The policies not, even the innovation not. I think the first thing is with all of us, how do we value care and how important is this for our society? Thank you so much, everyone.
Thank you so much, Katja, for that very insightful presentation. And the emphasis on valuing care really resonates deeply. So the first panel discussion is bringing our Korean entrepreneurs and impact investors and change makers, in fact, in the Korean society. I'm going to speak in Korean for the rest of the session, so please excuse me.
Now, we will begin the Korean panel discussion. We are joined today by 4 speakers: Ms. Ji-hee Kim, CEO of Hyodol Company Limited; Mr. Yoon-soo Park, Senior Manager at Doosan Engineering and Construction; Ms. Jung-ju Seo, Director at Agile Korea; Mr. Jung-tae Kim, CEO of MISC. They will share their presentations and join us for the panel discussion. We sincerely thank these very busy professionals for taking the time to be here today. We won't be reading their full bios due to time constraints, but you can find them in the booklet. Please take a moment to look through their profiles, and we hope you can connect with them during the networking session later. First, please welcome Ms. Ji-hee Kim, CEO of Hyodol, with a warm round of applause. Hello everyone, my name is Ji-hee Kim, founder and CEO of Hyodol Company Limited. It's a pleasure to meet you. I am truly honored to be invited to this wonderful event. I hope today will be an opportunity for us to share what we are doing to contribute to sustainable care and to learn from one another through meaningful networking. In Korea, the word hyo refers to filial piety, the love, affection, and respect we show to our parents. Dol can be a friendly nickname, as in dorsue, but it also means a doll. So Hyodol combines these meanings, a doll that embodies filial piety. It is both the name of our company and the name of our service. Many older adults and parents struggle with loneliness, self-neglect, and conditions such as Alzheimer's disease. Self-neglect, for example, is considered a form of abuse, even when cognitive impairment is not present. When an older adult skips meals or forgets to take medication, it is classified as self-neglect, and it is understandable. Even young people living alone often lose motivation or interest in daily routines. For older adults, this can be even more pronounced, leading to skipped meals, forgotten medications, and a general decline in self-care. In many cases, they simply lose the will to take care of their health. As we discussed earlier today, there is a severe shortage of caregiving resources. Korea has become a super-aged society, and in just 50 years, our average life expectancy has increased by 20 years. As a result, robotics is increasingly viewed as a potential solution. But in reality, very few commercially viable robots are being used in the field. Let me introduce you to Hyodol. Grandmother Lee Hee-soo bought children's clothes at the market. Then the clothes will be too small. Please keep patting me often. I'll pat you a lot. Today at kindergarten, I learned how to make a finger heart. Really? I love you. I love you too, my little Hyodol. She wanted to dress her affectionate care doll, Hyodol. Word spread around the neighborhood. Oh my, how cute, truly adorable, like a little yellow chick. I was just living day by day, unable to enjoy anything. I just wished time would pass quickly, to sleep at night and somehow open my eyes in the morning again. That's how I used to feel. But once this little one arrived, those thoughts disappeared. This is my friend now. I want to feed her snacks and meals. She even lets go of balloons for me. Look, it flies so well, like this and like that. It's wonderful, Grandma. It flies like this, too. I love and respect you, Grandma. Ever since I met Hyodor, I laugh so much more. Oh my Hyodor is the best, ha ha ha. When I hold Hyodor in my arms, it reminds me of holding my grandchildren before they grew up. Sometimes because she's tall, she even seems like a real person. It's as if she understands. And when I wake up in the morning, Grandma, did you sleep well? Yes, that empty feeling goes away. When I leave home, it feels lonely, so I take her with me. And when I place her down and come back, she says, Grandma, where did you go? It feels like someone is really here. People live through warmth, through human warmth. It's different. Her children have left home, her husband passed away first, and her lonely heart is now being filled by Hyodol. Oh, my head! Please pat me. Where are you? No matter what, may you grow smarter. May my little white one become cleverer and cleverer. Only then can you get into Seoul National University. Yes, yesterday was the college entrance exam day, and this grandmother hopes Hyodor will get into Seoul National University someday. Today in Korea, 180 out of 230 local governments, about 82% nationwide, have adopted Hyodor for use in public care services. Right now, 13,000 older adults are living with Hyodor, and around 500 elder care institutions, including senior welfare centers, community welfare centers, and daycare centers, use Hyodor as a tool to support their residents. Hyodor stays with an older adult 24 hours a day. She wakes Grandma in the morning, stays with her until bedtime, and even monitors her movements throughout the night. She is truly with the older adult around the clock. Caregivers, whether they are family members, care workers, visiting nurses, life support workers, or social workers, can use an app to check whether the older adult has slept, eaten, taken medication, how their mood is today, and how active they have been. There is also a web monitoring system used by institutions and local governments, which allows them to view statistics and overall activity patterns. These three components make up the Hyodor system. Hyodor has already been featured in 34 academic papers, many of them published in the United States. Research shows that Hyodor reduces depression among older adults and, which is extremely difficult to accomplish, reduces suicidal ideation. Studies also confirm improvements in daily routines, waking up, going to bed on time, eating meals, and taking medication consistently. Another study, conducted by the Kangwon National University School of Medicine, distributed Hyodor dolls to older adults with early-stage dementia and evaluated changes before and after use. Many of the caregivers in this study were women. Before using Hyodor, they reported a heavy psychological burden, feeling solely responsible for all aspects of their parents' care. After using Hyodor, their caregiving burden decreased. This was documented in a Korean academic paper. As you may have noticed earlier, older adults do not need to learn how to use Hyodor. They simply interact with her as they would with a child, patting her head, holding her hand, tapping her back, tapping her bottom, and Hyodol responds. She also engages in free conversation. If Grandma asks, "What should I eat for lunch today?" Hyodor might respond, "You ate kimchi stew yesterday, so let's have something not spicy today." If the older adult wants to contact a caregiver, they can press and hold Hyodor's hand, which triggers a call. Hyodor can also play religious audios, Buddhist scriptures, or trot songs like those by Lim Young-woong. She supports a wide range of activities. Hyodor also stores health information, such as whether Grandma has hypertension, hyperlipidemia, diabetes, or knee problems, and provides personalized diet suggestions and customized exercise coaching. Hyodor spends the entire day caring for the older adult, giving reminders, holding conversations, and providing constant companionship. As you saw earlier, the Caregiver app allows caregivers to instantly check an older adult's movements. Each older adult's daily routine can also be programmed into the system. For example, at a senior center where 50 older adults use Hyodor, the social workers begin their day by opening the app. They check whether each person moved during the night, whether they slept well, and if there are any signs of concern. If the system shows no movement, or if Hyodor has been removed from its usual place, they call the older adult first to check what happened. They can also send voice announcements. For example, "There's an event at the senior center today." Or, "We're having a birthday celebration. Please come by 3 p.m. This message is broadcast directly through Hyodor. Hyodor can also function as a telephone. When older adults want to call their family or caregiver, they can do so directly through Hyodor without needing a mobile phone. The web monitoring system provides even more detailed information. It allows institutions to view overall statistics and activity patterns. Hyodor greets the older adult in the morning and evening, asking, "Grandma, did you sleep well? What are your plans for today?" If the older adult responds, for example, "I slept well," the system records that as sleep status. It also collects responses about pain levels, mood, daily plans, appetite, and other basic health indicators. These responses are instantly shared with caregivers. The data is stored and tracked over time, building a time series record of sleep patterns, pain levels, and general health status. This helps identify early warning signs and prevent more serious health issues before they occur. Another feature, if an older adult says, "Help me," the request is received by a 24-hour monitoring center. They will immediately call the older adult, and if the phone is not answered after 3 attempts, emergency services 119 are dispatched. There is also a new function. Since care workers are off duty after 6 p.m. and on weekends, if no movement is detected for a certain period, a callbot will call and say, "Grandma, it's Hyodor. Where did you go without me?" If the older adult responds with, for example, "I'm at the hospital," or "My daughter came to visit," the system records that information as well. Human caregivers remain the primary responders, but the callbot fills in the gaps when staff are unavailable. As I mentioned earlier, we are collecting lifelog data from 13,000 older adults, and Hyodol is becoming increasingly personalized. Our goal is to improve not only health management, but also the emotional well-being of older adults, drawing from their meaningful memories and positive experiences to help them spend each day with a happier and lighter heart. We are continuing to advance our service toward building a personalized aging engine for every older adult. As I mentioned earlier, 13,000 older adults are currently using Hyodol. About 80 to 90% of these are provided through national or local government programs, purchased by municipalities and deployed through public elder care centers to support vulnerable or very elderly populations in each region. The average age of Hyodol users is 83, but usage spans a wide range, from adults in their 50s and people with disabilities all the way to older adults in their late 90s and even, we believe, some who are over 100 years old. Different regions use Hyodol in different ways. For example, in island communities in Cholanamdo, Hyodol will soon be linked with medication delivery services. Other regions provide specialized programs for older adults with dementia, or those needing chronic disease management. Hyodol is increasingly integrated into these local care models. In 2024, Hyodol received a global award in the Connected Health and Well-Being category at the Mobile World Congress, MWC, in Barcelona, Spain. Hyodol is now available in several languages: Dutch, English, and Chinese, and pilot studies are underway in multiple regions. 4 years ago, a group of 30 Korean American seniors in the United States began using Hyodol, and many are now in their 3rd year of continuous use. A recent study found that Hyodol helped reduce loneliness and ease cultural adjustment challenges among immigrant seniors. The research received a Bronze Award for Outstanding Academic Paper this year. As the professor and director mentioned earlier, our goal is to use innovation to address the challenges of a super-age society and to create warm, human-centered technology. We are committed to becoming a company that drives meaningful innovation in aging and care. We kindly ask for your continued interest and support as we move forward. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Ms. Kim, for a really lively and fascinating presentation. I'm sure many of our international participants were fascinated by this presentation. So again, we'll share with you the English recording of this presentation. Now, when it comes down to senior care, how many of you ever thought about the connection to construction sector?
When we think about senior care and the issue of dual caregiving, very few people naturally think about construction, right? So today, we invited Mr. Yoon-soo Park from Doosan Engineering and Construction. Our reasoning was this: care does not happen in a vacuum. It takes place in physical spaces. So why haven't we considered housing and built environments as part of our care solutions? With that question in mind, and with advice from Ms. Ki-suk Park, ESG Chair of the Women in Construction Association, we invited Mr. Yoon-soo Park to share insights and case studies from Doosan E&C. Please welcome him with a warm round of applause. Hello, I'm Yoon-soo Park, Senior Manager at Doosan Engineering and Construction's Architectural Business Division. When Ms. Ha-jung Lee asked me to speak about care, I also wondered what connection construction might have with caregiving. After thinking it through and hearing earlier comments about construction, I realized that we provide infrastructure, and the people here can help make those connections meaningful. Let me begin the presentation. I spent a long time thinking about what caregiving, construction, and life in multifamily housing mean in the context of our cities. What we know is that Korea's demographic structure is changing. Single-person households are increasing, and so is the elderly population. As a result, care demand is continuously rising. If you look at the chart below, you see the growth in one-person households, the increase in the elderly population, and projections that care demand will double or triple in the coming years. In multifamily housing, there are legally mandated spaces, required by law. These legal obligations come from the Housing Construction Standards Act. When building apartment complexes, the law requires certain community spaces. Construction companies like us provide these spaces, but no one connects them to care. The law states we must provide the space, but it does not state who should use it or how it should serve caregiving needs. Resident community facilities are defined in the Housing Act, and you can look through the details there. So, the current laws mandate the provision of various facilities and spaces, but focus mainly on providing the space itself. The care function is not being connected or sustained. Therefore, while there are enough legal spaces, the actual community connectivity is poor. So, I will give examples of community facilities. Senior centers, children's playgrounds, kindergartens are mandated community facilities. However, our construction industry is currently expanding care into non-mandated facilities. These include the more necessary tea houses, bus stops, kids stations, water playgrounds, fitness clubs, yoga rooms, saunas, indoor golf ranges, billiard rooms, table tennis rooms, indoor gymnasiums, multi-courts, guest houses, cafeterias, community gardens, and walking trails. Furthermore, nowadays we are continuously adding various facilities like swimming pools and restaurants to provide the necessary infrastructure. Let's look at some example photos. We have outdoor tea houses with full heating and cooling, and bus stops, or, as they are called these days, kids stations, children's bus stops, and then kids cafes, water playgrounds, and so on. There are also fitness clubs, saunas, and yoga rooms. Since screen golf is popular, we have indoor screen golf as well, billiard rooms, table tennis rooms, and even indoor gyms with basketball courts, outdoor futsal courts, guest houses, and cafeterias. Various facilities are continuously being provided. Outdoors, we have community gardens and walking trails. As you can see, a lot of infrastructure is being provided. However, there is no linkage model for space operation partners. Therefore, I believe a community that only provides facilities is insufficient. We need facilities that can be utilized effectively. So, the construction company provides the space and infrastructure. The residents themselves who are using this need to develop programs by establishing operating guidelines and discovering community leaders. And we need to create a system that can link with specialized care groups, local governments, or ministries like the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family. Regarding the resident self-governance strategy, since the residents are the consumers of this space, they are quite passive. We need to shift them to become active cooperators of the facilities. We should implement a community curator system, identifying leaders among the residents to become the main operating agents. As for self-governance programs, I hope to see infrastructure being developed by local governments or entities that create programs. The expected effects are a reduction in generational conflict and the ability to sustain care by fostering intergenerational harmony. Operation is essential for a space to thrive. We continuously provide only the infrastructure. If there are no people using the infrastructure, it becomes a dead space. So, this is a proposal from the construction industry. We need to transform from being a housing provider to a life care platform enterprise. The construction company shouldn't simply continue to provide swimming pools and senior centers, but instead form this platform to enable shared care. This is connected to the WPS principles I mentioned earlier, principles 4, 5, and 6. We are currently designing a care-centered community, including a silver lounge, a co-parenting playroom, and a healing garden. Ultimately, care is the competitiveness of a city. Just building apartments doesn't guarantee competitiveness. We must design people-centered infrastructure that starts not from the space, but from the relationships. That is all. Thank you, Manager Park. I was particularly impressed by your point that care is the competitiveness of a city. I believe you have created a valuable point of contact where we can collectively consider spaces, design, and construction related to care going forward. Thank you. Next, I would like to invite Director So Jung-ju from ASI Korea. Director So has been steadily engaged in social enterprises related to dementia for a truly long time. It is an honor to host such a distinguished person today. Please come forward, Director.
Hello, I am So Jung-ju,
introduced as the person in charge of communication and social innovation at Eisai Korea. It's a pleasure to meet you. Today, I will be speaking on the topic of corporate social innovation and the transition to a sustainable care society. Eisai is a global healthcare company headquartered in Japan, with local subsidiaries, production facilities, and research centers in about 40 countries worldwide. We focus on neurology and oncology, researching, developing, manufacturing, and selling specialized medicines that require a doctor's prescription, such as treatments for dementia, Parkinson's disease, and anti-cancer drugs. At the same time, we believe that our health is important throughout the entire journey, from prevention to treatment to well-ending. Therefore, we are engaged in activities to co-create social solutions required during this process, together with the stakeholders themselves. Specifically, we hold the corporate philosophy and vision of human healthcare, which is about empowering all people to live their maximum possible life. To understand people's ingenuity regarding health, we conduct activities to build empathy through socialization, using Ikujiro no Naka's SECI model. Uniquely, our internal HR system allocates a time for empathy, converting 5% of our work time into mandatory empathy activities for all employees. They form small teams of 2 or 3 to conduct projects. Over 10,000 employees worldwide each have their own project, and we encourage this by evaluating the project content and giving awards once a year. In addition to this, we are making various efforts to solve health disparities. As you can see in the photo here, all employees. Next Monday, we plan to visit a nursing home with our CEO. We try to deeply understand what the elderly feel emotionally, whether by giving them baths or helping with serving meals, and we strive to reflect those feelings in our work. When people first empathize, I think many people feel pity or think, "That's unfortunate." This applies to care issues and the difficulties of patients. However, as this activity is repeated, I think we move toward the stage of empathy where we feel that this is not someone else's problem, that it can happen to anyone, and that it is close to us. And the meaning of compassion is to share the suffering of others. As we continuously repeat empathy, we seem to reach the stage of compassion. It would be great if all employees reached the compassion stage and engaged in activities to solve problems accompanied by action. But even if not, we are steadily conducting empathy activities with the hope that the number of employees with compassion will increase. In the past, our society expected companies to simply sponsor with donations or charitable activities. Now, at the midpoint, there has been an effort to address both social problems and business value through things like marketing. However, the time has come when companies must actively step forward to solve these problems, because we can no longer guarantee the sustainable future of our planet. Therefore, companies must also join together to create change towards a sustainable future through their business models. In that regard, no single company can do everything. Eisai focuses its activities on the transition to a sustainable care society and the realization of a dementia-friendly society. In particular, we are promoting various activities through the Living Lab methodology, where private sector, industry, academia, and government cooperate to define and solve our social problems. We cooperate with specialized organizations and intermediary support organizations, but in particular, we listen to the voices and emotions of citizens and ordinary people, identify their needs and ingenuity, and strive to solve them. We are collaborating with various regional stakeholders to nurture all citizens, moving them from being objects of care to subjects of care, where both receiving and giving care is a right and an obligation for everyone, as care citizens. Here are some examples of projects we have conducted. By listening to the stories of the people involved, for example, we created a guideline for children with epilepsy who experience discomfort in school life due to a lack of understanding from teachers or friends. They use this to communicate their needs to the school themselves. Such activities also become a model for other patient groups to benchmark. Furthermore, people living with dementia become experienced experts who share their needs and necessary solutions, co-creating materials for joint activities, even going so far as to jointly sell things like coloring books. We are carrying out various projects. Among these, we have created a Care Living Lab network to enable connection, solidarity, information sharing, and joint growth, with many people collaborating together. Our goal is the transition to a care society where everyone participates, and we are promoting various living labs categorized by disease and community-based care. In this process, rather than simply pursuing a one-off project, we consider what global challenges and social problems we face, and how to approach and solve the problem by forming an ecosystem. This is a model of mission and vision proposed by Mariana Mazzucato, an Italian economist. For dementia, it means that to have the burden on humanity by 2030, we need a problem-solving approach that involves a comprehensive and integrated approach, including technology-based care standards, personalized diagnosis and treatment, and improving social awareness. When you spoke earlier, the term ecosystem came up several times. We aim for a healthcare ecosystem and strive to be a platform for various solutions. One of the projects I am conducting is a dementia ecosystem seminar. We continuously and consistently address various necessary issues related to dementia, from prevention to well-ending, every 3 months. It is held monthly. These issues include things we must consider together, such as zero care, the issue of ground-level care, first-floor care, mentioned earlier, solution creation, quality, and medical information. So, these are photos of our activities. We are also funding activities through the Living Lab method to spread garden healing activities. We also collaborate with the Korea Social Enterprise Promotion Agency on various activities, and we conduct classes in schools, collaborating with stakeholders in various regions to figure out how to create a transition to a care society through these Living Lab methods. We operate under the branding of Us Who Make Me. Our slogan is, "Let's create social capital where people can live with peace of mind, even as they age or have disabilities or diseases." We share various related information on SNS, so those who are interested might want to take a look. That concludes my presentation. Thank you, Director So. Those who are interested may want to search for the various activities being carried out by ASI Korea on their website or elsewhere to find out more. I have personally looked them up several times, and I believe they are doing many great activities, making them a very good benchmark for the companies here. Finally, I would like to invite CEO Kim Jung-tae from MYSC. Our CEO has diversely promoted public-private partnership, PPP investment, and nurturing models for social innovation and the impact startup ecosystem. This time, in cooperation with UN Women, he has gathered many countries from Asia in Korea and played various roles in discussing the investment perspective, how we can approach the care sector from an investment standpoint. Let's welcome CEO Kim Jung-tae. It's a pleasure to meet you. I would like to offer a few opinions on how funding, investment, and the capital market can be connected regarding the care industry. In the past, many areas were covered by individuals, families, religious groups, charitable foundations, and governments. But for these areas to progress better in the future, the capital market and funding must be connected. I will share a few examples today on how we can do this and how we can draw the capital market's attention. Our company was established in 2011, and we are now actively investing in early-stage investments on the largest scale in Asia. We assist social enterprises and large corporations, as well as various startup CEOs who are trying to solve the world's 3 major challenges: social polarization, economic inequality, and the climate crisis. So far, we have invested in about 259 companies, and we are currently investing not only in Korea, but also in Vietnam, Indonesia, Singapore, Thailand, and Japan. We directly nurture about 500 startups annually. To nurture 500 startups, we meet with 5,000 companies annually. And these days, since many startups are facing difficulties, we provide a lot of counseling and advice. One of the areas I will mainly be discussing today is blended finance or mixed finance, which is basically a method of mixing financial instruments with different characteristics. This would include donations from charitable foundations. There are also investment funds used by investors like us, and R&D funds provided by the government. Blended finance is the term for merging these funds, which possess different characteristics to create a specific impact. In 2024, last year, we secured about 41.7 billion Korean won through blended financing, raising capital for over 50 startups. In this regard, we have accumulated a lot of experience in the senior tech sector. There is one company in Busan currently valued at about 150 billion Korean won. Although there are significant budgets for welfare research, when it comes to individuals or households, there isn't even a simple check to confirm if they can utilize these resources. A social venture that is rapidly solving this lack of access is growing significantly and is on the verge of an IPO. In relation to our investments, the biggest curiosity for investors like us is, what are the needs in the market? By observing startups, we discover what the market needs and wants. We continuously invest in these areas and are seeing how this type of financing can be helpful. A few examples were mentioned earlier. We are applying an innovative financing technique called SIB, Social Impact Bond, in the dementia sector. This technique is applicable where there is a strong preventive effect. Through a project we conducted with Buyo County for a total of 300 participants, we directly experienced how this financing can be helpful. We also made an investment in Seoul, targeting children with borderline intelligence. We experienced that when funding is injected, a solution that generates real effectiveness can receive financing. So the question given to me today is, how can we secure the still insufficient funding and capital in the care sector? I would like to introduce two concepts today. First, blended finance, mixed finance, and second, outcome-based financing. As briefly mentioned before, blended financing is fundamentally a way to gather funds with different characteristics into one pool. This is because blended finance is known to be very effective in areas like care, where public and private sectors are mixed, and it is widely used globally in such areas. I won't go into detail about the basic structure today, but you can think of it as layering public support and private funding, with each party bearing the risk accordingly. If someone is completely fine with taking risks, and someone else desires a market-level return, these requirements are met by creating respective layers. Through this, we address the fundamentals of investment, risk and return. High risk, high return. Making a return by taking risks is perhaps the most basic formula for investment. If various players with different risk appetites can gather in one place, the possibilities increase significantly. This can be structured across various entities, including funds, companies, projects, and outcome-based initiatives. Among these, we have a company like Yuhan Kimberly. Yuhan Kimberly provided a donation, about 2.5 billion to 3 billion Korean won. And based on that donation, investors like me provided funding to create a fund of approximately 8.5 billion Korean won, which is currently operating in Indonesia. Through this method, by gathering government funds, the 5 major funds, private company donations, and money from LPs, limited partners, or investors like us, this form of blended finance is possible. I believe the care sector has a great industry structure where this can be applied precisely. So, what can we expect when blended finance is applied to the care industry? We can imagine the possibilities. While the commercial viability might be low for care services in developing countries, certain regions, or for the impoverished, large-scale private capital can more easily approach these areas by utilizing the vehicle of blended finance. Furthermore, when specific solutions debut, they might initially incur losses or fail, meaning large amounts of private and public capital cannot be deployed right from the start. In such cases, blended finance can first shield private capital from risk, facilitating the commercialization of technology. The remaining benefit is creating accessibility. The second concept is similar to blended finance. Outcome-based financing, OBF. We call it OBF, and we are already experiencing why this is possible through carbon emissions trading, like the carbon credit market. For example, a company like Tesla earned 3.7442 trillion Korean won last year alone through carbon credit trading. This was not from selling cars. They were acknowledged for the effectiveness of their low-carbon electric vehicles, earning over 3.7 trillion Korean won last year. I believe applying this mechanism to social services and care is truly just a matter of time. The carbon market alone was a 1,250 trillion Korean won regulated market last year. If you look at the far right, outcome-based financing is still a relatively small 250 trillion Korean won market, but we predict these numbers will grow much higher, similar to the carbon market. Historically, much financing focused heavily on inputs and activities, on the left. Of course, increasing programs and activities is important, but if a structure is created where someone can also finance the specific outcomes that companies like Hyodol, mentioned in a previous context, are creating, companies like Hyodol can access more capital. They can then continuously grow to ensure these outcomes are realized. This highlights the potential of outcome-based financing. In a similar vein, there is a non-profit organization in Korea called Lovely Paper. Korea has one of the highest rates of elderly poverty globally, and the majority of this poverty is driven by the poverty rate of grandmothers aged 65 and over. There are many grandmothers aged 65 and over who collect waste paper. Lovely Paper purchases waste paper at more than 10 times the market price and turns it into wonderful fashion items. We realize that if we can monetize the increased emotional support and social engagement for the elderly through Lovely Paper services, aspects previously seen as being in the public domain or as economic externalities, we can provide compensation. We are collaborating with global social outcome trading platforms such as the Common Good Marketplace to help nonprofits, corporations, and various organizations monetize the social value they create, allowing people to trade it like carbon credits. This year, the World Economic Forum is suggesting that these concepts are the next big thing in financing. While it is difficult to detail today exactly how these outcomes are derived, the World Bank fundamentally defined well-being as the single unified standard for value. When trying to understand the human capital perspective, what would be the single standard if the economy developed or if a certain social value was created? As you know, for the carbon emissions trading scheme to come into effect, the diverse types of greenhouse gases were standardized into one unit, carbon dioxide, CO2, which was then measured. The moment CO2 became the single standard, we no longer had to worry about the countless types of greenhouse gases. The focus became unified on reducing greenhouse gases, and a single currency was created. Similarly, this credit will also be possible when we approach it with a simplified standard of well-being. We are nearing the end. The organization called Imagine in Malawi conducts educational intervention for children aged 7 to 14. When we measured the total impact on over 60,000 children, it was accurately measured to have a social outcome value of 118.7 billion Korean won. Now, this monetized value is being uploaded to the Common Good Marketplace, which I mentioned earlier. And various charitable foundations, family offices, philanthropists, and government agencies are actually purchasing those outcomes. I believe that for the care economy and the many services produced in relation to dual care, we have the opportunity to monetize the social value generated and trade those parts like carbon credits. Therefore, outcome-based financing drives efficiency and innovation. Since the government or investors only demand results, private service providers have immense freedom to creatively and autonomously generate their solutions. And I believe the outcome will be one where they can focus on what truly constitutes an effective approach and what truly creates a solution and results. Finally, I talked about both blended finance and outcome-based financing. These two can of course be used separately, but they become even more powerful when used together. That is, through outcome-based financing, we can send a strong signal to the market and various investors that this project can achieve results. And through that signal, various players can participate via the blended finance method, allowing more financial institutions, charitable foundations, and corporations to get involved. Secondly, for verified care tech solutions, verified through outcome-based financing, we can leverage the power of finance via the blended finance method to expand beyond metropolitan areas to remote farming and fishing villages and even to developing countries. I believe we can bring about the change we desire by borrowing the power of finance. I ask for your interest in these areas and your efforts to connect what you do with financing. Thank you very much, CEO Kim, for your excellent insights. The topic of finance in the care sector might be a little unfamiliar today. However, this conversation is so important because we constantly hear that we have so many necessary things to do, but no money. We need deep and creative thinking about how to procure those resources. I hope that through this conversation, you will all think more about financing and how we can secure these resources. We will briefly invite our 3 panelists for a Q&A session and discussion before concluding this session. Since we are running late, we won't be able to ask all the prepared questions, but I would still like to ask a few.
Here, Lucinda here from the British Chamber of Commerce. I know that you have a lot of influence to a lot of businesses, in the financial sectors and various sectors. Maybe they have never even thought about these things, right? How do we really make an impact in the care sector? How do we bring together our financial resources and our goodwill in such a way that we can really invest in care? So we really would love to count on you and many other business leaders in this room to really think about how we really bring these actors together and really generate these conversations. So we'd like to ask for all of you to kindly lead such discussions afterwards. Now, I'm going to invite my panelists for short question and answer panel discussion. 지금 저희 패널, 우리 4분의 패널님들 저희가 앞으로 잠시 모셔서 질의응답 토론 잠깐 하고.
Since we are running late, we won't be able to ask all the prepared questions, but I would still like to ask a few. First, I would like to ask a question to CEO Kim from Hyodol. I would like to ask you about the necessary social and policy infrastructure. You clearly demonstrated how Hyodol is innovating the emotional and physical care of seniors through technology. What social and policy infrastructure do you believe is necessary for this technology-based care to substantially alleviate the burden of women's unpaid care? Is the mic on? First of all, I regret that I didn't bring Hyodol directly, as I didn't know I would meet so many people today. I had a traumatic experience a month ago where I left Hyodol on a train, so I'm not carrying it around now. First, Hyodol is truly a collaborative child. The children of the seniors call Hyodol the youngest sibling of the house. This is because even though they don't live together, Hyodol plays the role of constantly reporting things like, did mom take her medicine? Did she eat? Is she doing well? Therefore, Hyodol acts as the caregiver's assistant and the grandmother's companion. When caring for the elderly or people with disabilities, the physical aspects, like accompanying them to the hospital or bathing them, are extremely important. But emotional care is also very important. I lived with my father, and checking his complexion, asking how he felt, and checking in on his well-being happened daily. When other family members who didn't live with him didn't know about these things, the stress and loneliness were truly immense. Therefore, these emotional aspects, or all these activities that require spending time and physical resources, need to be addressed in a community where the person carrying that burden can openly discuss them. And it is very important to create a platform where information about the existence of Hyodol or other tech devices can be shared and communicated through such a community. In Ireland, there are centers, like a convenience store or a lab in the community where dementia patients and caregivers can rent technology they can use, try out the devices, and if they like them, they can really buy or rent them. I hope such things become more widespread in our aging society. Thank you. I have one more question. You come from a non-tech background, and starting a startup must have been a very rough road. May I ask why you initially started in this field, and why you are still walking this difficult path? Yes. I wish that even though grandmothers and grandfathers might only have a few years left, that their daily lives would be healthy and happy. The issue of lonely deaths, kodoksa, is frequently reported as if it were a social disaster or a failure of regional welfare when it occurs. However, lonely death happens after passing away. I felt that the happiness and wellness of the elderly before they pass away were truly more important. Now, because our society is growing so fast and busy, we seem to be quite indifferent to the value and lives of the elderly. So, I wanted to pay attention to that area. In Hyodo's case, after introducing it to the community for 2 years, there was an economic return of $3.5 for every $1 spent. This is because it is a system that allows seniors to manage their health independently at home without having to go to a nursing facility. So, these economic effects have also been demonstrated. I hope that more technologies and services that enable such self-reliance, self-revitalization, and self-sustainability are spread widely. Thank you. I truly believe this is a great example of an innovative service created with good intentions and embedded technology. Thank you. Next, I would like to ask Manager Park Yoon-soo a question. We have many senior centers, Kyongrodang, in Korea, don't we? Every apartment complex has a senior center. Would it be possible to utilize these centers for care services? Also, could you tell us the pros and cons of activating senior care services within apartment complexes? Could you please pull up my presentation, maybe around page 6? I was thinking about how we could integrate senior care with national public child care centers. If you bring up the slide, I will explain. Most people live in apartments rather than detached houses. If you look at the signs, you will see a sign for a national public child care center within the complex. These centers are different from private ones. Once a facility is confirmed through a national/public certification process, they grant a certification. I will keep explaining while the slide is brought up. They grant a certification so that the infrastructure is provided by the construction company and the operation is managed by the national public local government. For example, if we build a senior center but the elderly residents don't use it because there aren't enough seniors, it becomes a useless space that we just built. Therefore, I believe if the local government or the Ministry of Gender Equality and Family were to create a certification for this, we could integrate senior care into the complex. Can we zoom in on one section here? This one. Can you zoom in on the top right corner here? Yes, if you look here, it is certified as a National Public Child Care Center next to the sign. When it is certified, it is not operated as a private center, but by a national agency or local government. So just as we provide the infrastructure for a senior center, if we introduce a National Public Senior Care Service certification, the operators can then bring in various systems and programs. If we, the construction company, provide the infrastructure, I believe we can reduce the costs and various expenses associated with building such facilities externally. Looking at the pros and cons, the advantage is what you mentioned earlier. We can simultaneously solve the dual care problem within the complex. Parents can drop off children at the child care center and seniors at the senior center and go to work. This provides convenience, makes employment more stable, and reduces costs. The disadvantages, I think, are regional. Without meaning to ignore smaller regions, there are cost differences in providing a standardized service between smaller local areas and, say, Seoul, which creates disparity. And still, the public perception is not yet ready to adopt senior services within the complex. This leads to many people saying, "I don't have seniors' children, so why should I pay for this?" We can anticipate intergenerational and interregional conflict in apartment complexes. That is all. Yes, then we need to find various ideas to prepare for such conflicts. Thank you. Next, I would like to ask CEO Kim Jung-tae a question. We have business solutions whose effectiveness has been verified in various countries and regions, right? However, successfully spreading these solutions to other regions can be a completely different problem. I would like to ask what is needed and what preparations should be made for us to achieve this kind of successful diffusion. Because, as you mentioned in your presentation earlier, there are great examples and people think, "That's so good, that's great." But then they get stuck on, how do we actually apply this everywhere? You must have a lot of experience with this, so could you please give us some advice? The role of the private sector seems to be that of diffusion. For instance, one of the recent announcements made when South Korea and Singapore elevated their strategic partnership was the allowance of pork exports from Jeju Island to Singapore. Immediately, the pork processing plants and startups in Jeju are making massive preparations. Similarly, if the government can simply create the regulatory framework, the necessary institutional improvements, to allow good services to spread to other places, the rest of the work belongs to the private sector, the startups and investors here. So, rather than the public sector defining the infrastructure and imposing, "No, you can't do this," regulations, if they create a sandbox, our investors can use finance, such as the blended finance I mentioned earlier. CEO Kim mentioned Hyodo's effect was 3.5 return for every $1 spent. This is called SROI, Social Return on Investment. The fact that a $1 investment yields $3.5 of value has been clearly verified there. Therefore, this is exactly where outcome-based financing should be applied. The private sector can leverage its autonomy, creativity, innovative funding, and the dynamism of the capital market to determine how to spread these results to places like Thailand, Singapore, Vietnam, or Indonesia. Thank you. Now, I will ask Director Seo Jung-ju. We talked privately, and this kind of work is truly not easy. So, although you shared about your good activities earlier, it would be helpful if you could share with the audience the biggest difficulties you faced while implementing these social initiatives and how you overcame them whenever you encountered them. Honestly, there were so many difficulties. When a private company tries to engage in public activities, internally the argument is, "We have to do business, so why are we doing public work?" Externally, people find the company's public work strange and look at it with suspicion, thinking there must be an ulterior motive. So there were many times when I felt isolated, neither here nor there. CEO Kim Jung-tae invited me to a retreat for the League of Entrepreneurs, Social Internal Entrepreneur League, a while back, and many people gave me a lot of advice. First, regarding those empathy and innovation activities, I have worked in HR for 20 years. I made efforts to embed these activities into the organization by reflecting them in promotions and performance evaluations. Secondly, to secure supporters within the company, I made efforts to find people, even just one or two, who would cheer and participate with me. Third, I communicated with external experts and journalists to secure evidence that would both please the company management and secure the social legitimacy of the business. Also, even though our company is in the healthcare/pharmaceutical sector, We must prove the social value created and the economic effect when obtaining permits or approvals for medicine. Therefore, from the public's perspective, they also view how meaningfully and authentically the company conducts its work as another criterion of value. So, I have managed to continue by conducting activities to enhance the justification for the business and the company's corporate value, things that align with those criteria. And frankly, I still face many difficulties. Thank you. There are many people here who engage in such activities within their companies. If you are struggling with this, I suggest you network with the director later. Since this is somewhat related, I will go back to the CEO of Hyodol. The balance between public benefit and profitability in the senior care sector is truly a crucial challenge, isn't it? How do you design the social value and the business sustainability, i.e., the profit model, together at Hyodol? This seems to be the core issue. Yes. Since our main business is B2G, business to government, many people are curious about how the business scales up. I think it's fortunate and good that we started with a public project, and I am grateful that Hyodol has been delivered to the elderly who genuinely need it on a large scale. Nevertheless, because the elderly who can receive benefits from public care are a small minority, we believe we must become self-sustaining and enter the private market. Fortunately, Hyodol has been certified for reliability and trustworthiness through the public sector and was the first care product in Korea to be included in the preliminary benefits for welfare devices. It's similar to B2G, but different in that individuals can select it and receive a form of sponsorship. Therefore, even before the full launch, we plan to meet more users and move into the private market through voucher programs, such as welfare devices, regional investment, and social service projects, where individuals can directly choose various forms of welfare and receive vouchers. Also, the global market is huge, so entering the global market is our goal. Thank you. Now, I would like to ask Manager Park Yoon-soo again. From the perspective of construction, what do you think is necessary to maintain sustainable care services? Care must be maintained continuously. It needs to be maintained from children to adults. So we, the construction company, will continue to provide spaces that can offer high-quality, good services. Secondly, residents must increase their participation rate, entrusting their children and parents to ensure this continuous maintenance. Thirdly, by operating the services for 1 year, 3 years, and so on, we gain know-how and must develop various programs. I believe that if these 3 elements keep circulating, sustainability will be maintained. To facilitate this, I have thought about whether we should maintain at least a minimum legal regulation. Thank you. CEO Kim Jong-tae, you spoke about blended finance and outcome-based financing earlier. There are many investors and companies from Asia here today. How can impact investors, along with UN Women and public sector asset owners in Asia, practically create business cases where blended finance and outcome-based financing are jointly applied? What kind of picture can we draw? The change has already begun. I think creating opportunities like this forum is the true role of UN Women. Because of the residence they have under the UN name, they are inviting many people here, starting with Korea, and they will probably go to other countries too. Ah, yes. So first, attending such a gathering is the key. Secondly, this issue is not about public or private sectors operating separately, or startups being isolated. Although it seems heterogeneous, they actually need to come together. When they gather, ideas emerge, and that process leads to the stage of compassion, as Director So mentioned. I was personally touched while listening to the Hyodol presentation just now. I believe we are currently at the empathy stage. If UN Women can cultivate this empathy globally, we can move to the next stage, which is compassion. I truly think there is a lot of money in the world. The asset owners have a huge amount of money over there. The question is, what clear signal can we send about why and where that money should come? I think empathy and compassion are ultimately the key. Thank you very much for your insightful words. Due to time constraints, we can only allow one final question. I will ask Director So Jung-ju. On the subject of care, why do you think a corporation should persistently undertake such a difficult yet valuable social role? Please share your final thoughts on this. I believe every person has vulnerability, and I think we must move towards a society where individual vulnerability is accepted and the value of care is respected. However, our society is not quite there yet. But corporations occupy a large part of the world through their businesses, and no matter how many positive changes activists make in the public sector, I believe a fundamental systemic transformation will be difficult if businesses do not change. In that sense, I think there is a need for roles that can create change within the business and act as a bridge to the path of systemic change by connecting the business with the external community. I continue with this work with the thought that even if this role is lonely and difficult, someone must do it. Thank you. I hope that you will all join in so that the director does not feel lonely or distressed. Please give a big round of applause to our panelists for their excellent presentations and discussions.
I'm going to ask the first speaker, Ms. Roina Reyes. She's originally from the Philippines, but she's leading Swift Capital in Indonesia. We are very grateful to have her insights to be shared with us because she has decades of experience in this sector, investing in the right places and also applying the gender lens to the investment. So, Roina, please kindly come to the podium. Ladies and gentlemen, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Rowena Reyes, a director at Swift Capital. So I'll be speaking on gender-responsive investments in healthcare. So Swift Capital is a women-led private equity firm headquartered in Singapore. Our gender-focused mandate targets women-owned, women-led companies that employ a lot of women in the workforce, companies that provide goods and services to meet unmet needs of women, and finally, companies that are exhibiting excellence in adoption of inclusion and sustainability practices in their own organization. Our geographic focus are countries like the Philippines, Indonesia, and Vietnam. At Swift Capital, we combine the rigor of private equity investing with robust impact measurement and management practices. Our impact investment thesis is grounded on the intersection of market opportunities for growth and impact while using diversity as a driver for value creation. As such, we are seeing a lot of opportunities in sectors such as healthcare, education, sustainable food systems, as well as climate resilience, where women are leading the solutions, and women employing more women into the workforce and delivering those solutions, and women being the decision makers of usage of the products and the services. So we are creating a multiplier effect here. We invest in companies where impact is inherently embedded in the business model. So the capital that we provide is catalytic in scaling both impact and the model. Our mission is to deliver scalable investments that exhibit good financial returns while creating meaningful social impact. By applying a gender lens across our investment framework, we are able to direct the capital towards inclusion, women's economic empowerment, and fostering sustainable growth. So our focus on impact measurement and management is designed to advance ethical and responsible investments, as well as enable evidence-based decision-making, as well as active management and assessment of risk. All our investments are screened and monitored against using ESG practices. We map our investments against the SDGs, as well as the impact gases of the impact management project. We exclude certain companies in our investable universe, and we invest in impact measurement systems, so in order to capture and track and report on our performance. So that is actually articulated in our annual impact report. Impact governance is important. It's a fundamental that all our investee companies comply with local and international laws. And lastly, we focus on impact data-driven strategies to support women's economic empowerment. And with that, we were able to develop a proprietary tool which measures a company's commitment to inclusion and sustainability practices. We call that the SWEEF Capital Gender ROI. It is a diagnostic and measurement tool that assesses a company's commitment and be able to address the gaps and barriers in women's economic empowerment principles within the organization. We apply different levers of actions and interventions through the 4 enterprise dimensions of leadership, workforce, value chains, and society in order to derive the outcome pillars of resilience, opportunity, and inclusion. And that's how we coined the ROI. So this is a different type of ROI. Starting with resilience, women's economic empowerment enables them to access resources and be in a position of decision-making, which improves their lives and that of their families. Opportunity, women's economic empowerment will not be absolute if women are not given the equal opportunities. So it's really leveling the playing field for them. Inclusion, women face a lot of barriers because of gender norms, and it constrains their advancement or continued employment. So through these outcomes, we're applying different levers on the enterprise dimensions of leadership. So women in leadership positions promote diversity and gender equality through their spheres of influence. Workforce, leadership, championing women are reflected in their policies and the practices. And these are fundamentals in developing business resiliency as well. Enterprise leadership enables women's economic empowerment through its customers and suppliers, and that's value chains. And lastly, the last dimension is society. The contributions of the other dimensions provide active contributions to the well-being of society and that of women. So this is the gender ROI matrix. It's a matrix of 24 qualitative and quantitative indicators. It's a deep dive, a holistic approach in addressing gaps and barriers in affecting women in the workforce and in the marketplace. Under resilience, we look at the presence of women in the cap table, in senior management, as well as middle management, their gender wage equity, as well as grounding policies based on gender disaggregated data in supply chains and value chains, as well as the responsibility of each company in addressing climate risks. Under opportunity, we look at different HR processes here by evaluating the performance evaluation, progression, what are the policies with respect to recruitment, and gender lens, in applying a gender lens in all of the policies, because there would be differences between man and woman in the workforce. It's also looking at professional development and networking and mentoring. And this is also the opportunity for leadership to influence its supply chains through a gender-responsive procurement and gender approach to value chains, as well as when considering CSR activities, there should be also a gender lens applied to that. With regards to inclusion, this is addressing the barriers that women face. So that's inclusive health insurance, survivor-centered prevention, and response to gender-based violence. There are workforce support policies. This is when you have the paternity leave, maternity leave, and family leave, which covers childcare and elderly care. Those are workforce support policies. We look at women turnover rate and why women are leaving the workforce, and women in part-time and temporary employment. So it's also important to create pathways for part-time workers to access full-time work and understanding the dynamics on how to make that happen. Of course, we look at the compensation ratio for women hourly workers, as well as fair treatment of part-time and temporary workers. So it generates a score. It is a benchmark that we use. What we have here is 3.93 out of 5 means it's advancing to role model. We apply gender ROI in our investment process, in our origination, evaluation, where it's part of our impact due diligence. Once we establish the benchmark in the due diligence, we apply gender action plans, which we incorporate in our closing documentation. So there is a written commitment from entrepreneurs to work on those. And it's actively managed, part of the performance evaluation or management of the portfolio, where they provide us a quarterly assessment. And hopefully all these actions builds up business resiliency and value creation so that we do make a very good exit from the investment. Currently, our fund has invested in healthcare, addressing the lack of healthcare facilities, as well as serving underserved markets in the region. Our first fund invested in a maternity hospital in Vietnam, and that was located in the second-tier cities, and be able to build satellite hospitals across the Mekong Delta. The current fund has invested in a women-led stent manufacturing in Vietnam. Another one is actually we're looking at 2 investments in Indonesia. One is a chain of wellness clinics, and another one is 3 hospitals in West Java, where there is not a lot of healthcare facilities in the area. So underserved and access to facilities is what we're addressing through those investments. But we've also come across different types of business models that we find interesting. Home care services, this chain of primary doctors or clinics be able to do house visits, companies offering specialist and palliative care services at home. There is community-based services, which is home care, assisted living, and hybrid, training institutions that would upgrade and upskill healthcare workers and caregivers. There are also technology providers that connect women employees or caregivers through a platform. There's telehealth and monitoring services. And of course, an interesting model that we saw in Bali is a franchise model for assisted living, which integrates tech care and AI tools for wellness, but marketed under a hospitality care type of program. So that's my presentation today, and hoping to hear from you.
Thank you so much, Rowena. I think you may find this quite technical for those of you who are not familiar with this sector, but this is really revolutionary how an investment company is systematically applying the gender lens. Mr. Zhu, sorry, I'm just going to switch the order just a little bit so that it's a VC and startup. Next, I'm going to invite a startup from Thailand, Adrian Mangal, who is leading FamBear. I'm just going to switch the order so that it's one impact investor and then startup and then so on. So Adrian, the floor is yours. We are really excited to hear about what you have done in Thailand.
All right. Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Adrian. I'm the co-founder of FamBear. We're based in Bangkok, Thailand. Today, I'm going to share with you our amazing product that we've built, Fanbeer. I'll be explaining to you the impacts we've had, the challenges and solutions, opportunities for collaboration, and policy and support needed. So, what is Fanbear's vision? Fanbear's vision is connecting the world with innovative care tech solutions. Our mission is simple: to enrich families' lives while creating well-paying care jobs. We had the honor of winning the Asia Pacific Care Accelerator for the UN Women. So, let's dive into our product. I wanted to share with you a few key things. Our product will be available in 20 different languages. Our product will be available in 20 different languages. That will allow us to cover 7 billion people on the planet. Second, as we enter a new market, we're easily able to add that market. We have 3 segments. 1, care. 2, jobs. And 3, shop. So, if you're looking for a babysitter, for a nanny, for a maid, for senior care for mom and dad, or maybe you're looking for tutoring services for your children, our platform is also inclusive. We have OT, occupational therapy, physical therapy, and speech therapy for children with special and diverse needs. Now, how do we make that better? We've built the AI. So, I'd love to take you on a journey. Imagine you're a parent, you're working for the UN, you have 2 kids to take care of, you've got your home to take care of, and your mom was recently diagnosed with dementia. You can quickly click on the AI. My greets you. My asks you a few questions, and you provide information to My. Hi, I'm looking for a caregiver to take care of my mom who has dementia. My says, thanks for the details. Please share your location, your preferred language, any specific care needs for mom. Do you need the carer to bathe your mom, dress her, prepare her meals? This is done in an empathetic way. The customer responds, I live in Bangkok. I'm looking for an English and Thai caregiver who can cook, drive, and take my mom to her doctor's appointments. My says, here are the best matches for you. In the background, My is searching our database with all of our caregivers and a ton of data points and provides you with the right fit. Now, you're led into a scrollable format similar to TikTok, similar to Instagram. There's enough data on the caregiver's profile for you to make an informed decision. You know where the caregiver is located, what salary she's looking for, or he. You're also given what certificates do they have. Have they passed a criminal background check? Have they passed a skills check? Have they passed a reference check? So all of that data is at your fingertips. This caregiver speaks English, speaks Thai, and speaks Korean. Our algorithm tells you this caregiver matches you X percentage. So maybe we didn't find the caregiver that matches you 100%, but we've gotten you there as close as possible. Now, you can favorite the caregiver, and maybe when your partner gets home in the evening, you can discuss it and say, hey, I found someone for mom. Or maybe your siblings are in London, they're in Washington, D.C., they're in Seoul, they're in Bangkok. You want to share it with them. The responsibility fell on you to find care for mom. So you share it with your family members, and you say, hey, I found this great caregiver. Give me your feedback. You also have other customer reviews. So other customers are telling you, I know about this caregiver, she's fantastic. It's helping you to make your decision. The customer can post jobs. So when the customer posts a job, when the caregiver logs in, the caregiver, instead of seeing profiles, the caregiver sees all the jobs that are tailored to that specific caregiver. And a similar algorithm is running in the background to match that caregiver with jobs. What impact have we had so far? 75% of Fanbear's team are educated women speaking multiple languages. This is the secret sauce to our success. 80% of the caregivers on our platform are legal migrant care workers. We've helped our caregivers increase their wages by about 20%, 2x global inflation. We've helped them generate between 5 to 7 million US in wages and income. So not only are we generating income for our caregivers, we're generating tax revenue for the economy. We've designed a care training program that was designed by moms, nurses, and therapists. There's one for nannies, there's one for maids, and there's one for senior care. This was an investment we felt that was necessary. We've also offered language classes. As I mentioned before, 80% of the caregivers are migrant care workers. They're coming across from bordering countries, Myanmar, Laos, Cambodia. So some of them may not speak the local language. So we offer a free language class for them. With the help of the UN Women team, we've been able to offer CPR classes. We've implemented a sexual harassment and prevention policy, a customer and care workers' right agreement. We exclude things like age, weight, and marital status from any of our profiles. We've added a safety center to our app, and we're a signature to WEPs. While building this, we faced a few challenges. The first challenge is a shortage of skilled and verified caregivers. Second, non-compliance with labor laws. And third, global IP issues. First, let's address the shortage of skilled and verified caregivers. How did we fix that issue? We developed the right training programs for our caregivers. We've partnered with the Royal Thai Police to do fingerprint background checks on every single caregiver that enters our platform. Second, we noticed that some of our customers were not following the local labor laws. For example, care workers get 13 public holidays. So, how could we fix this issue? We created a customer and caregiver agreement that clearly outlines what are the job responsibilities and what are the benefits. So communication with our customers was key. And third, we applied for US protection with the Patent and Trademark and Copyright offices, and were granted it. What opportunities is there for collaboration? The first thing that I wanted to address is while we're doing care in Bangkok, or we could do care in Seoul, we must think about the rural areas, right? And how do we support those care businesses? I'm gonna give you a perfect example. In a small town in Thailand, we were able to help a small woman-owned business that didn't have any presence online, did not want to make any IT investments, by allowing them to use our platform. We verified their caregivers, we added them to our platform, so when a customer looks for a caregiver in that geolocation, they can easily find them. The company now gets about 100 sales calls from Fanbear per month. Second, I think Katya spoke about this earlier. The UN Women team is developing a program called NICE, a network of inclusive care entrepreneurs. This is bringing people together in an ecosystem through collaboration, advocacy, and partnership. So, what needs to be done and what support is needed for the care economy? Let's talk about policy. We need to align care workers' rights with all workers' rights. We need to think about the caregiver, and we also need to think about the customer. For customers, we need to think about tax benefits. So for example, If you spend 60,000 US per year and your income is X, you should be able to get a receipt for that, and it can be a tax deduction for you to support you. Second, while we talk about care, care must be inclusive. Care services for children with diverse and special needs is at the forefront of FAMBARE's operation. Third, technology. While today we've heard a lot about AI, we also need to think about when we're training these models and any bias that's within these models. And how do we train the models, understand the bias, and retrain the models? That's super important. And fourth, investment. We need to tell the picture about investing in care is profitable. The care economy is about $11 trillion, 9% of GDP. So, investing in care can be impactful, but it can also be profitable. And we need to tell that picture. In closing, FAMBARE is providing essential care services, creating jobs. It's an easy-to-use tool. You can find local care jobs. We're building the right technology to connect people. It's inclusive, and it's easy to use. So invest in care, invest in women, and invest in FAMBARE. Thank you.
Thank you so much for this fantastic presentation. I'm sure many of you are very interested in this model, and please check it out, what FAMBARE is doing on the website. Now I'm going to invite Mr. Zhu Yuping from Age Club based in China. As you know, China has the biggest population, rapidly aging population as well, and we are very much looking forward to listen to his experiences in China. So please.
Thanks for invitation. I'm Zoe Bong from Age Club, and is honored to share the opportunities in China's civil economy. As we know, China is a country with the fastest aging rate and the largest elderly population in the world. It will only take about 30 years for the population of people aged 65 and above in China to increase from 7% to 20%. And in 2024, there will be 310 million people aged 60 and above in China. By 2050, this number will approach the 500 million. And we believe that China's civil economy has reached a turning point. The demand of elderly care services and the entertainment consumption demands both grows rapidly. By 2025, the long-term care insurance system will be fully implemented nationwide, and home-based elderly care will develop rapidly. In 2022, the generation born after 1962 began to retire, and more than 20 million people retire every year from 2022. And they are the wealthy, and they have plenty of time. So from an industry perspective, more and more elderly care products have been developed and manufactured in China, and more sales channels targeting the elderly have emerged. But products and the channel are still in a stage of mutually seeking in a match. So Age Club is attempting to solve this problem. We provide information, data, knowledge, and industry resource for this civil industry. We operate the most influential media, which reaching over 400,000 professionals, and we are the organizer of the largest civil industry forums in China, gathering over 8,000 companies related to the elderly. And our independent consulting team has published over 800 professional reports. We have invested 12 innovative companies since 2022. Okay. And more, we have built a data platform for the aggregates, places, research, company, and product information. We have established a complete civil industry ecosystem in China. Our investment focus is divided into two aspects. One, in elderly care, we focused on two key areas: home-based care services driven by policy, and technology enhancing the efficiency. In senior consumption and entertainment, we focus on channels and opportunities for new categories. Here's our portfolio, for example. Zoe Technology. Zoe Technology is intelligent care devices, develop intelligent care devices such as automated excretion cleaning robots and bed bath robots, which enhance the care efficiency and reduce physical strain for the caregivers. The excretion cleaning robots can automatically detect whether the decaying has occurred and clean the areas with warm water and automatic warm air driving. So it makes the elderly more comfortable and reduce the workload of the caregivers. At last, we sincerely invite quality products enterprise and collaborative partner to pay close attention to the vast opportunities within China's Asian market. If you are considering entering the Chinese market, seeking Chinese products for introduction, investing in China's civil industry, welcome to get in touch with us. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Mr. Zhu. Age Club is actually biggest of its kind in China, and it's really interesting that they are bringing various elements of services for the elderly. So thank you very much, Mr. Zhu, for your presentation. Now I'm going to invite Nadia Yusuf from KiddoCare. She's the CEO of KiddoCare, which is a leading care service provider in Malaysia, and she has also worked very closely with our UN Women Regional Office. So we are very happy to have her here. Nadia, the podium is yours.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Nadira Yusuf. I'm the CEO and founder of KiddoCare, also a mother of 6 children. The reason why I created this solution. But yeah, just to give a little context, really, on why KiddoCare was conceptualized about 6 years ago, it was really to fulfill the gaps that's really persistent in the Malaysian market, right? So women were not entering workforce, or they come in and then they leave the workforce because of childbirth, simply because we did not have enough childcare centers. You can see the numbers, right? This is a number from 2022. We needed in Malaysia to accommodate 5 million of children below the age of 4. 47,800 childcare centers, but in Malaysia, we only had less than 5,000 childcare centers. So women had no choice. Women had to take care of children of their own or send children to places that are not regulated, not registered, unskilled workers, and a lot of news were happening in Malaysia at that time. Abuse, accident, death, and whatnot, right? But at the same time, so we have women who wanted to go into workforce but couldn't go. At the same time, we also had women who were looking for opportunities to work. But care work has always been the last in anybody's mind. For Malaysia, or rather for KiddoCare, one of our mission is to create employment and job opportunities in the care sector for Malaysians, for Malaysian women particularly. But Malaysian women, especially the younger women, do not want to come into caregiving services because it's always deemed as an auntie's job, right? So it's not sexy, it's low paid, there's no career progression. We wanted to change that. We wanted to create something that's more circular in impact, and thus we created KiddoCare that enables women to go out for work, participate in workforce, at the same time becomes a platform for other women to build careers in caregiving, right? So it's a dual impact organization. But what we have learned throughout our years, it has been 6 years now growing KiddoCare, right? What we have also learned throughout the years of getting women into the caregiving industry. So we're happy to share that we have over 25,000 caregivers in Malaysia at the moment, right? and 60% of our caregivers are women aged between 20 to 31 years old, which means we are getting more of the younger workforce to come in and work as caregivers. Now, what is important for us to attract them to come in, right? The first thing is that they have to feel that this job is for them. It's something attractive. It's something that they can come in, grow their careers. They must feel interested. Therefore, the kind of work that we provide for them actually allows them to come in, join, find that they are interesting, make sure that they can earn enough money and then come into more courses to build themselves and have career progression into something more professional. They can become teachers, they can become entrepreneurs, they can go into becoming highly skilled care workers, right? So this is very important. And I think about 10% of our caregivers are women aged between 55 to about 65 years old. These are the retirees. And happy to share 5% of our caregivers are men, right? Okay, so we're trying to now, so Kidocare has always been built 6 years ago, established as a childcare platform first. We wanted to solve the problem of childcare. But now, after servicing more than 350,000 families in Malaysia, and the families are evolving in their needs. Their children are getting older. Even their parents are getting older. So now their needs have evolved from just their children to how else can you support me and my family's needs. So my own parents are getting older. I require different type of services. Now, Kidocare is naturally evolving into a full-fledged family care ecosystem. Right? Now, there's three core pillars in Kidocare. The first one is our technology. And our technology is the one that enables trust and gain trust. So we like to say that, our real product is trust, right? The second component is our Kidocare Academy. Now, this becomes a compulsory funnel of all our caregivers into our platform. So they have to be trained by us, come in, upskill, everything is through Kidocare Academy. The last one is our Kidocare Spaces. So we've evolved from just becoming a digital platform to now having our physical childcare spaces. We work with corporates also to establish their childcare centers. And we have various models now to accommodate different needs. So we have home-based models where our experienced caregivers can actually set up childcare in their own house, connected on our app, for families to basically get that, right? And also now we're setting up childcare centers in transit areas. So we're building childcare centers in the areas where subway stations are. And this actually, benefit women and parents who commute to work or who are working flexibly and just need to drop off their children for a couple of hours, right? Now, why Kidocare is trusted in Malaysia? Number one, we produce trusted nannies. So how we say we produce trusted nannies, our Kidocare Academy childcare train them. Anyways, even if they have certificates or degrees or masters, whatever not, because they have to comply to Kidocare's SOP. We do psychometric assessment, and on the app, they actually have their emotional and wellness assessment every time before they go for a job, right? We do background check with the Royal Malaysian Police to make sure there's no report or any other criminal record that is attached to them. The technology personalizes childcare. So it really becomes something that personalizes whatever you need, right? And the technology goes beyond just personalization in terms of your requirement. It also becomes an area where we make sure that safety and security of care is ensured, right? And our technology also becomes a point where we collect a lot of rich data from service. So all our caregivers are trained to conduct activities with the children. We have 100% no device rule whenever the caregivers come into the house, right? And they are supposed to run activities that are engaging with enrichment to help children in their learning and their growth. Now, all this information is then captured through the app. And our AI then analyzes the patterns and behaviors of children and analyze them against children's developmental gap. This is when we are able to identify what else can we do to support child's development, what new products and services can we add in, how else can we improve conditions for parents, right? And because of that, technology becomes the key nucleus to other integration. We have now enabled our care bank, allowing our partners to come in instead of becoming competitors. They are now our partners. So we truly can democratize care for people. So corporate employers do not now need to build their own childcare centers. They can be plugged into KiddoCare's partner program, provide childcare subsidies, vouchers or hours, and their employees can take any childcare, any care providers within the app, right? And now we're including insurance services. We've integrated healthcare into our system, enabling our care providers also access to healthcare, access to e-consultation, access to MC medical certificates to prove that they cannot go to work, not because they don't want to go to work, you know, that kind of thing, right? All right, we've also included our talent hub that also allows our caregivers not just to work for families, but they can also be employed by other key industry employers. A whole lot of other family solutions. I'm not going to skip that. Now, we're now expanding into elder care and other types of specialized care, and this becomes a very natural evolution. The technology is now primed. So it is prime because we truly understand the market. We already have the market. Now they are now requiring other services. We have tech maturity, we have workforce preparedness, right? And market readiness. So this is where we are. We've been 3 years profitable. So to Adrian's point, care is indeed investable and profitable. It is scalable very much, right? And we have a 2-3-year plan to IPO back in Malaysia. And this is how we're going to grow our business. And of course, when we talk about scaling and growing, we would love to have more collaborators and partners. Of course, we welcome investors. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Nadia, for your energetic presentation. Any of you who are struggling with a bit of a sleepiness, I'm sure you woke up, right? So thank you very much, Nadia. Now, last but not least, I'd like to invite Ms. Sarah Susumi from DG Incubation in Japan. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome her.
All right, thank you very much. At the end of the session, I hope you all get an idea of what I do, what we do, and a little bit about our Japanese market landscape and what we're expecting in future. So, my name is Sarah, and I'm from a company called DG Incubation, overseeing impact, investment, general fund operations, and LP relations. My name Sarah has a Chinese character. San means world, and Ra means betterness. So I have a lifelong mission of making the world better. I know it's a heavy one, right? I hope today can be another good step for making the world better, and please help me becoming a truly Sarah today, okay? Now, let me talk a little bit about our company, what we do. We have two functions. One is accelerator. We run Japan's first ever seed accelerator in 2010, and it is accelerator sector agnostic program of 3 months. We have 2 batches per year, and we receive about 200 to 300 applications all over the world per batch, and select about 5-ish companies. And it's the equity type, so we invest all the company that we select. We actually did once a dementia care specific open innovation program with Eisai Japan. We have 160 alumni so far, and we are proud to share that OnLab is the only one seed accelerator in Japan that has minted a unicorn and multiple listed companies. Second function, investment. DG Incubation, we currently manages 2 funds. We invest to seed and early stage startups in Japan and global. It's sector agnostic, yet we do have a scope. Fund 1 is an ESG focused one, and Fund 2 is an impact bridge fund. We aim to invest those financially strive startups with a positive impact. Here are the example of invested companies. As you can see, the topics are widely covered, and we made 3 investments in elderly care sector. And let me touch upon a little bit about the theory, impact theory of our second fund. In order for the Japan's next decade, we need to focus on our investment impact skill, create a signature investment portfolio company that everyone knows, and have a financial and non-financial impact. And lastly, contribute overall competitiveness of the Japanese players. It goes any topics that we cover, so not just care sector. Now, in terms of the investment theory or investment strategy on a care sector specifically, I believe redefining the care domain, expanding the market, and targeting non-insurance revenue sources would help increase human resource and collect valuable data, which are the critical issues in a Japanese society right now. Then in the near future, we need a transformation at the systematic level. If each player operates only within its own niche, both data and the people remain fragmented, making it difficult to achieve a true system-level transformation or solution for the entire care industry. Just as a system-level change is now required across the broader impact investment topics, again, the care sector also needs this transformation at the system level. Let me explain with the case of study of Ichiro, one of our portfolio company who is here today as well. Ichiro provides us a matching platform that connects caregivers with the care recipients and family who need a service not covered by the public long-term care insurance system, like longer hours or taking grandma to grandchildren's sport event. Through its own AI algorithm, personalized consultations, and attentive communication, it enables the provision of high-quality, tailored care service. Most of the caregivers on the platform usually work at the service facility, but Ichiro helps them, caregivers, to have extra income while developing their skills within this Ichiro service. Ichiro has built a service that users want to continue using and build a solid business model that secure revenue outside of this insurance system. This has resulted in a steady, stable growth and strong traction. On the social side, both caregivers and care recipient users continue to grow, helping to solve industry pain. These efforts embody a model benefiting all stakeholders, and the company has been recertified as a B Corporation. Ichiro is already emerging as a role model that strengthens trust across the entire care industry. Lastly, I want to talk a little bit about the future. Each market has its own situation, and it is not one fit all. But what I can do, or I can say from the Japanese current situation, is that Japan really needs to redefine the care market itself, expanding into non-insurance, overseas, and extended care domains to create a new revenue streams. By ensuring sufficient profitability, we can establish sustainable financial flows across the ecosystem. At the same time, while data privacy remains a little bit of a challenge right now, we should move beyond the siloed data usage within individual business and build a shared interoperative data infrastructure. This would truly improve operational efficiency and help secure the human resources needed for the future, ultimately driving a system-level transformation of Japan's care industry. If you're curious to know more about the Japanese market or even specifically Ichiro, please let me know. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Sarah. Now, as we set up the chairs for the panel, I just want to echo what Jung Tae said in the panel discussion in session 1, that there's a lot of capital out there. There's a lot of money. So it is our job to find where those capitals are, make the narratives that make sense, to incentivize and to motivate and to inspire people with capitals, and then driving those capitals into places where it is most needed, right? So I think this is really the spirit of our forum today, that there's this quite unique forum that we have the providers together with the investors. And I really hope that we can have this conversation afterwards as well. Now, I'd like to invite our panelists. I'm going to ask you about 1 or 2 maximum questions per each, and then I promise I will finish on time. So please, our panelists, ladies and gentlemen, please just give a warm round of applause again to our excellent panelists. I have gotten some questions from our panelists, and I'm going to ask whatever I like the most from your questions. Please give me the freedom. The first question goes to Nadia. Nadia, KiddoCare really successfully created dignified and interesting employment opportunities for women caregivers. I love the word dignified and interesting at the same time because it's not easy to create that kind of employment opportunities. And it's also very challenging here in the Republic of Korea as well. So from your perspective, what kind of structural or policy barriers do we still have in place that is really prohibiting us from scaling up such successful models like you have made?
Thank you. So I would say, even back in Malaysia, it is still a challenge with, structural policy, regulations, and stuff like that. I think in Malaysia, especially I can speak from the context of Malaysia, care is very fragmented across different ministries, right? And our challenge, even in the beginning, if I can share a little bit of my story. So 6 years ago, when we introduced KiddoCare as a mobile care platform, for the first 2 years of our lives, we basically had to go on and fight with the government because the government cannot deem to put us anywhere under any regulations. We're a tech-enabled company, so there isn't any regulation in Malaysia to look at tech-driven care companies, right? And they didn't even know home-based care providers, who do they fall on, right? And which ministry should be taken accountability for people like KiddoCare. Until now, it still does not exist. So what happened was we will need to constantly engage different ministries because care falls under the women ministry, the children agency, the education as well as health also. So it takes a lot of work to engage and a lot of reporting to do. But being in that situation truly put us in this very unfortunate environment. So we cannot get the benefits of, say, our beneficiaries cannot get benefits of care vouchers, subsidies and things like that because we are not recognized. So I think these structural barriers are still there. I think the government will need to relook and reframe care because we are all integrated when we talk about care. And this, I think, will allow for more innovative solutions to come in and do what it should.
Thank you, Nadia. Now, let's just stay on this theme about integration. Adrian, your company, FemBear, focuses on really integrating elder care, child care, and household support, and why not, right? What unique challenges and opportunities have you found when applying this holistic model? I think there are a lot of companies that are thinking about this kind of model, but it's not easy. So in your experience, what are the key challenges as well as sort of the ways to address those challenges?
Thank you for the question. I'm going to explain it from two perspectives. One of the main challenges we've seen is when a customer comes to us, they will basically want to hire a caregiver, and they'll say, I'd like you to be the nanny, I'd like you to be the cook, and I'd like you to also take care of mom and dad. And that's a lot, right? So setting the customer's expectation is the first thing that we need to do. Second, from the caregiver side, Nadira and I have emphasized this to the audience today. Safety and security is of the utmost importance. You're bringing this person into your home to take care of your family. So the tools that we've implemented, these background checks, skills checks, reference checks, they are key. So I think it's both from the customer perspective and from the caregiver perspective. Those were the main challenges that we faced and we've overcome.
Thank you. Now let's look into a little bit of data side of things, because you all touched upon the importance of data. Now, Mr. Zhu from Asia Club, yes? How do you see the role of digitalization and data analytics in improving the efficiency and scalability of elderly care services based on your experience in China?
Okay, first of all, it's very important by collecting and analyzing the operational data of elderly care services, such as the time spent on different services. It helps improve the quality of care and reduce the operational costs. Collecting the physical health data of the elderly can predict the risk of them developing healthy problems. But from China's experience, digitalization also changes the original workflow. And so the caregivers are not very willing to use it. From another perspective, the important thing is how to integrate the data and the services together. For instance, when data predicts that elderly person may have an emergency, I think the important things is directly collect the hospital, the family members. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Now let's go to the sort of the capital side of things. Rowena, I'm looking at you. How does Swift Capital balance financial performance with social impact when applying the gender lens investment framework? Because balancing is never easy. So how do you balance that in Swift Capital?
For us, we look at it. It comes hand in hand. So without the other, we won't be able to make the investment. So it's important to demonstrate that there is intentionality on the impact side, and we are able to meet the returns that we have committed to our investors. What we're trying to address also is the misconception of impact investing means substandard returns. Through our portfolio, we're trying to demonstrate that purpose-driven investing would be able to generate market-based returns as well as create social impact. So we're very much invested in tracking the performance, both from impact and returns.
Fantastic. I think this links to what Adrian presented in terms of the impact board, right? So to really demonstrate what kind of impact it is generating and then linking it to the profitability. I mean, I think this is all very much interlinked. So thank you very much, Rowena. Now, let's stay on this investment side of it. Sarah, how do you think startups and companies can do more to attract investments into this care sector? So maybe you can give the advice from the investor's point of view, right? Let's say imagine that there are some great companies with great ideas. How can they attract capital better?
Okay, as a GP of a fund who has a fiduciary duty, I'm going to say a little bit of crucial reality. I think one thing that people should focus or highlight is profitability. In this capitalism society, things gonna go work well or faster or as expected with capital. So if you want to change the society or whatever the issue that they're dealing with, having a better or higher growth or attraction or profitability can definitely be the faster way to attract investors. Often impact and impact area, especially care sector, impact and profitability can be a trade-off. So you have to make a balance, maximizing the impact and the profitability. Otherwise, we cannot put or bring more capital in it. And we have to show the world or the investors that maximizing the impact can also bring in the better financial performances as well.
Thank you very much. Now, I just want to go back to what Katya said earlier at the opening that, by convening this forum, we, UN Women, we are not advocating for privatization of care. We do maintain that the government holds the primary responsibility for care. And at the same time, we acknowledge that there is a capital out there, and then there's a huge need for care that cannot be fulfilled by the public funds alone. And this is why we are having this discussion. So I just really wanted to clarify this. And I think our entrepreneurs and impact investors here are really demonstrating how to really do that, right? I'm just going to give the last opportunity to all the speakers who volunteer. If you don't want to speak, you don't have to. Now that you have done what you have done, what has been the most rewarding experience that you have had in running your business on care? And what do you recommend to the people in audience in terms of collaboration and for creating an ecosystem for care?
Sure, I'm happy to go first. So the biggest impact we've seen is in our office, we decided to build a therapy space for children with special and diverse needs. And we have some amazing, talented therapists. And watching a child come into our office that had difficulties with eating or swallowing, or maybe with handwriting, and after so many therapy sessions, seeing that child's progression and that parent just being wowed, that's been super impactful for me. From that test model, we've partnered with schools all over Thailand, and we're providing therapists that are actually going to the schools, working with learning support teams, and supporting these children. And I just think that's super amazing.
Yes, it is amazing. Anyone else volunteer? Nadia?
Yeah. So if I may share a story, 3 years ago, I think it was during COVID, the high point of COVID, right? We were providing our services to the frontliners in Malaysia. So frontliners are basically your nurses, your police officers, people in the low income group, right? And we took in many women from who were displaced of their jobs. So the cabin crews, the hospitality staff and whatnot, right? And we wanted to ensure that they were able to still get reasonable, decent pay, right? At the same time, the frontliners were not able to afford the services to pay these workers. So what we did was that we ran a crowdfunding program to subsidize the care costs of the frontliners to about only 10 ringgit a day. That's about $2 a day, right, that the frontliners pay. And the balance is used by the funding and also our personal money. So we raised some funds just before that from our crowdfunders. We used that because we believed that the COVID wouldn't last for 2 years. So, right, but it extended more than that. So at some point, we ran out of money, and I decided to basically stop and close down the business. But then, the frontliners and our caregivers were saying, please don't, right? Okay, we'll take lesser pay so that the company can survive. All right. I think about a couple of months after that, I received a phone call from this lady who said, thank you for existing, you saved my life. And I was like, okay, happy to know, glad you enjoyed the service and whatnot. And she said, no, I don't think you get it. I'm thanking you for saving my life. And I said, okay, right, tell me more. And she started crying, and then she said, I was a doctor, I'm a doctor. I was in charge of the COVID ward, right? And she had 2 sets of twins below the age of 4. So she came to know about us by chance. I do not know what chance, but it must be some divine intervention. She was actually finding ways to kill herself. She was Googling that, and our ad came out. So instead of looking for ways to commit suicide, she took our service during COVID for 2 weeks, sorted herself out, could get some rest, had some mental health check, and now they're okay. Can you imagine if I decided to close my business then because things were getting hard for me, and we probably lose a life? So I think the real rewarding thing about doing this business is that resilient over hardship, and really believing that this is going to impact somebody's life, and we are at the position of doing that impact for good. That's rewarding for me. So that's my story. Thank you.
Wow, that was very inspiring. Thank you. Thank you. Yes, Sarah.
Well, I would say the rewarding experience is this opportunity, thanks to UN Women in MISC. We are, as a seed investor, we invest to our seed and pre-seed stage startups. We hope to the startups to work well, and the business would work. But sometimes we're not really sure if the business works or actually making an impact. And we invested HRO a long time ago, without not knowing 100% for sure that the business would work. Eventually, we supported and we explain about the impact, how it works, and all that. After a few years, Ichiro got a B certification, which is amazing. And recently raised a Series B round as well. It's significantly working. And this time, today, and this week, I could be able to bring him to here, exploring the new market, and I can see that they are in this stage, which is very, very good. Not only for them's sake, but also for my sake as well. That means that I could develop as an impact investor or impact fund manager to explore a new market and bringing portfolio companies to a bigger market, which is something that I wanted to do for many, many years, and I'm super happy to get to this point.
Thank you, Sarah. Mr. Zhu, you want to take?
Okay. So my advice is everyone should pay more attention to new technology, such as millimeter radar and AI and monitoring devices and so on. I think the technology will solve our problems in the future. So everyone should pay more attention to it. Yes.
Thank you very much. Yes, we are indeed talking a lot about technology and AI and why not in this country and across the world. And thank you very much for reminding us of the importance of thinking about technological solutions and applications. Rowena?
Yeah, similar to Sarah, we find a great fulfillment when we see our portfolio companies succeed. So especially when these entrepreneurs are able to soar. So we invested in a maternity hospital then, and a good story and a good ending for an investor is being able to, for that company to be able to raise additional funding from others. So the bet that we did, there is validation to that, and it's doing very well right now.
Thank you so much for sharing your businesses and your insights and your experiences. Ladies and gentlemen, I think we have a fantastic panel here, so please give a warm round of applause to appreciate. Thank you. So, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for staying with us until the end. You are the champions for staying with us. And then we have actually Ambassador of Ireland here, Ambassador Michelle. We would love to ask you to really tell your co-ambassadors the importance of this agenda. And also, whenever you talk to the businesses as well as the policymakers, we need influencers like you to be able to make that call. So thank you so much for everyone both being here, and we look forward to our networking session as well. Thank you very much, everyone.